Welcome back to another UCL Fantasy Deadline stream, this time out of Matchday 15, the first leg of the Champions League semi-finals. It is a pleasure to have you on board. The best team that I published very recently combines the best wildcard and limitless squads into one video, and the team selection delved into my transfer plans where I attempt to match the best team you can build for Matchday 15 with 5 free transfers. Not much has changed in terms of my plans. I will be replacing the 4 eliminated players in Courtois, Kane, Mbappe and Rodgers, and the injured Robert Lewandowski. And I think the biggest differential and way of maybe gaining rank over everybody else is that choice of the 5th midfielder. I've put out several polls in the last couple of hours on my channel, so be sure to check it out and cast your vote. And I might even put more polls in this live stream, so be sure to let your feelings known in the live chat. Also, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We are getting very close towards 33,000 subscribers, and our aim by the end of the season is to achieve that goal. And check all the other links in the description for my Twitter, aka X, Instagram, Blue Sky, the Discord server, UCL Fantasy League, as well as Spotify. And thank you very much to those that have signed up as a member or a patron. Those links can also be found in the description. Let's start things off with FPL Kevy, who says, yes, buddy, before it becomes a madhouse in here, just want to say good luck, and of course, come on, you Gunners, 3-1. Likewise, FPL Kevy, it's always good talking to you, and yeah, it's a big night for Arsenal, and a great set of Champions League matches in the semi-finals. Hopefully we get some great football, and an Arsenal win. Easy says, wildcard active, 5 players already been eliminated, 1 player injured. That's a good position to be in, and I think those that wildcarded recently, like myself, will find it quite easy to have a full 50-man squad. But I also get the kind of point of maybe keeping Lewandowski, for example, who will probably be out for both semi-finals, by the way, not just Matchday 15, and then using that 5th transfer on getting differentials in every position, which includes the defensive line, because in my case, I'm not really looking at changing anything there. I've got Nuno Mendes and Hakimi, who are very exciting assets to own. I've got Saliba to cover Arsenal. I've also got Bastoni for Inter Milan and Koundé for Barcelona. So I'm actually quite happy with that 5. And even if I had the choice of having a wildcard limitless now, I'd pretty much go to the exact same players, especially with Pavard being ruled out and he will not play in the first leg. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think the midfielders are going to be probably where the main crux of the points are at, especially in terms of gaining points on those in the mini leagues and the rankings. Anyone going to put Trossard? Well, if he does play, I think he will. The predicted lineup by UEFA.com have Trossard up front and Merino in the midfield to compensate for Partey suspension, and that would mean Declan Rice as the holding midfielder. But maybe Arsenal go for something a little bit different. They tried several different things against Ipswich Town in their 4-0 win very recently, and they attempted to put Lewis Skelly in the midfield, and he traditionally is a midfielder by trade. Alexander Zinchenko as well, kind of similar there. So it wouldn't surprise me if Merino remains up front and Trossard is an impact sub. So I wouldn't be buying Trossard just yet. But if he's in that lineup, he's going to play down the middle, and I think it becomes a very enticing option for Matchday 15. Cylindra says, hey Dylan, I'm currently ranked at 9k. Which 2 should I bring in out of Yamal, Ferran Torres, Merino, Rice? Well, my favourites would be Yamal and Ferran Torres, but I think with Merino, it ultimately depends on if Trossard starts. If he does, I'd be less keen on Merino, and instead I'd focus on the other midfielders you mentioned. Even Declan Rice, who averages 6 points per match day, he has had a great Champions League campaign, and he kind of guarantees you 3 to 4 points at least. And I think you get attacking returns. Of course, he's on set pieces, the main free kick taker, and also sharing corners with Saka. I think Rice is a very underrated option, and yeah, I think those free kicks definitely forced us to really take notice of him in UCL Fantasy. So that's kind of what I'd be looking at. Ferran Torres and Yamal for me. But if Merino plays up front, I'd still be very tempted by him. Bilal says, is Pavard confirmed out? Yes, and I'll be showing you the different screens very soon with some updates from yesterday and today. So as Sven says, Pavard is out, and Gio Boys as well. Diego Tenorio says, hola Dylan, ¿será que Marcos Thuram sale de titular mañana? Parece que sí. Voy a mostrar muy pronto alguna noticia de Italia y sugiere que va a empezar Thuram en vez de Arnautovic y Taremi, así que parece que va a empezar Thuram y es una muy buena opción en esa posición, y te digo la verdad, no tenemos muchas opciones ahí. Bastoni is not injured. I'm not sure where you've seen that. Geoboy says, a punt Dylan, Merino or Ferran Torres. So as I've just mentioned, it does depend on if Trossard starts. If he does, I wouldn't go for Merino, and I think Ferran Torres is the clear winner. Otherwise, it becomes extremely close, but I am leaning towards Ferran Torres at the moment, which I discussed in yesterday's team selection. Yeah, I will be showing you a predicted lineup by Sky Sports Italia. I've been doing it in pretty much every single UCL Fantasy stream this season, and they've always been spot on. Insane Gamer 7 says Inter are cooked, injuries form as well. I expect Barca to win comfortably. Yeah, over the last week or two, Inter Milan have lost 4 consecutive games, and they just look jaded, absolutely tired and knackered. They've got a lot of injury problems to contend with, and Barcelona are in a much stronger position despite some injury problems of their own, but nowhere near to the same level as Inter Milan in recent months. And yeah, I think Barcelona are the favourites, but I wouldn't rule out Inter Milan completely because it's a cup game, and I think Inter Milan, when they set up defensively, they can be very tough to beat, even for the likes of Barcelona. Easy says 69 points last match day. Yeah, that's a good score, I think, with all things considered. Julian says 48 for me. Yeah, I think it could have been underwhelming for some people, myself included. Only a small red arrow of a few hundred places, but you always want to see greens, especially after playing the wildcard. Welcome, Zodiac. Good to see you. The same goes for Davor P. And evening to London W4. Amin31DZZZ says, today, captain, Saka, Martinelli, Merino. My favourite is Saka, and I'll be showing you a poll I put out on my channel very soon, but feel free to see it yourself. If you go on my channel, you can see all the polls I put out and all the updates, and if you're a member, you can also get early access to my content through the channel memberships and also the community posts on YouTube. Zodiac says, what's your highest UCL fantasy rank for a whole season? I finished in the top 800 twice. Well, so 800 and I don't know the exact number, to be quite honest with you. I need to double check. I do have it saved somewhere, just in case I forgot, because I'll be honest, I'm not really like a, let's say, a rank merchant. But UCL Fantasy, this would be my worst rank by far, what you see now, and it's still a decent rank overall. So I'll have a quick look now. I'm pretty sure I've got it in my notes somewhere. So let's see. Pretty sure I've got it here. But yeah, it's not a huge deal anyway. But basically, I finished in the top 900 technically twice, including last season. So yeah, not going to get there this season, unfortunately. But I'm still aiming to finish as high as possible and enjoy myself. Merino would be juicy, yes, but only if Trossard doesn't start. Because Merino in the midfield, he can score from there, but it's not going to be as often. And I'd ultimately favour Martinelli and Trossard as a result. FPL Kevy says, guess I'll wait for the lineups, then mess with my team. Not many forward options, though. There basically isn't an option. You go for Doué, Thuram, who looks like he's going to start, and the best of them all is Lautaro Martinez. And that's pretty much all you can choose from, because Havertz is out for both semi-finals, Jesus is out for the season, Lewandowski will miss both semi-finals, and Arnautovic and Taremi will probably not start if Thuram is available, and it looks like he will be. So, since I was asked about my rank, let me just get the exact number again. I'm pretty sure if you go to my Matchday 1 team selection from this season, I had it in the title. It might have been 866, but here we go. So UCL Fantasy, yeah, so I finished 837th last season. That was my highest rank. The season before that, 2024. The season before that, 878. The season before that, 3,000. And the season before that, 24k, which is when I was just beginning to play UCL Fantasy. So this would be my worst ever rank. If I can somehow better that 24k rank from a few years ago, that'd be great. But I've been very consistent in this game, and you also need a lot of luck. I do find myself having more fortune in UCL Fantasy compared to FPL. Zodiac says, I'm going to play my wildcard today. Yeah, to be honest, with the wildcard and the Limitless, if you've got them, I'd highly recommend using them now. I mean, I always say to use them as early as possible. It is team dependent, of course, and with the wildcard, such as in my case, I used it quite late on this season, but typically I like using both of them in the league phase, which is something I kind of did differently this time round. Wilfred says, hi Dylan, another exciting few hours for all Arsenal fans. Trossard or Martinelli to go with Saka. If Trossard starts, I'd be very tempted by him. I think both Martinelli and Trossard can cause PSG problems, but Saka for me is the standout. That's why for the captaincy, he would be my favourite. But yeah, Trossard would be the one. Whoever plays down the middle for Arsenal, whether it's Merino or Trossard, is the one I'd highly recommend. But Martinelli is a good option. I wouldn't discount him, and he has been in good form in most matches recently. Weising says, will you buy Thuram on wildcard? Need the third forward? Well, yes. If you're on the wildcard right now, it doesn't really make any sense to stick with Lewandowski, who will be out for both semi-finals, it looks like. The official prognosis from a week ago is that he was going to be out for 3 weeks. So unless he's ahead of schedule, he will miss both semi-finals, and you've only got 3 to choose from. Now, is it an absolute guarantee that Thuram starts? No, but Sky Sports Italia are very reliable. Even the Inter Milan president came out and said that Thuram is in good shape to start, and he also took part in full team training today, so it's looking very positive. Hi bro, Marino or Torres? says Danthor. I would go for Torres at the moment, but if Trossard doesn't start, it becomes very close. So yeah, Paolo, that's been answered several times basically with my analysis on Lewandowski. The answer is no. Thuram could play, yeah. Julian says, I have Marino. Wish I waited to get Torres, I think. Yeah. Now, Marino should start in my opinion, but it isn't a guarantee. But the main concern really is Trossard and how that influences his position. Yeah, Marino captain is risky, but it's not really a bad thing to go a bit different because you've got the Wednesday option tomorrow to fall back on if needed. So don't feel afraid to go for differentials, and you need them at this stage because if I'm being completely honest, it will be difficult to gain massive rank rises at this point of the season. So if you can go differential, I'd always encourage it, but only if you have a good feeling about it and you're not just forcing the differential per se. Gabriel says Ferran and Marino, or Yamal and Ferran, or Yamal and Marino. Well, basically, yeah, a lot of those are just identical. My favourite at the moment is Yamal and Ferran Torres, but I think any single one of those duos are fine. If there's any 3-0 result for this game week, do you think any of the opposite team can come back in the second leg? Yes, but it would be unlikely. For example, I think Inter Milan are such a solid defence, but if they were to lose the first leg 3-0, I don't see them coming back because Barcelona would likely score in Italy. And yeah, then they'd need to score 4 or 5 goals, and I don't see them doing that. As bad as Barcelona can be defensively at times, I still think they're a bit better than people give them credit for. But of course, their high line is very risky. Yeah, Vitinha's fine. It's just you've got so many options in the midfield. It's a shame I can't actually go for more midfielders and eliminate some of the forwards who don't look as appealing. But Vitinha, Kvaratskhelia, Marino, Trossard, Martinelli, Odegaard is also not being mentioned a lot. Dani Olmo deserves a lot more credit. You've got Fermin Lopez if he starts, Pedri. So really, you've got too many options. My favourites are Marino if Trossard doesn't start, and Ferran Torres. Yep, I've covered that as well. And we've also got a super chat in the building by Nick. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. A little appreciation for Dylan. Thank you. Thank you as well. Very much appreciated, and all the best for Matchday 15. If you have any questions or comments, then let me know in a non-super chat. Yeah, exactly. Rafinha can save us tomorrow, but Inter Milan are sturdy defensively despite their issues. Of course, Pavard is out, and they've got a few injury problems. Their form is terrible. I would back Barca to win that game. The thing is with Barcelona, though, they can share the goals between their forwards, Ferran Torres. You've also got Dani Olmo and Yamal, but Rafinha has been the clear standout in UCL Fantasy this season. So yeah, we are getting some kind of similar questions, and some of them have been answered, so hopefully you have got the answers already. But just to reiterate, Thuram will likely play. I cannot guarantee it, but Sky Sports Italia have him in the starting 11. Yeah, Doué should start, but there's no real point, asking, oh, is Trossard going to start or Marino? Because we get the lineup in literally half an hour's time. So I'll try to skip these Arsenal PSG lineup questions. I'll show you a predicted lineup very soon, but it's not really worth delving into it too much because we get the official lineup in just a matter of moments. Best Inter defender, Bastoni. I've been very clear on that from the beginning. Juan F. Garzon says Martinelli or Trossard. If Trossard starts, I would go for Trossard. So wait for the lineup, and then you can go for whoever you prefer, and I don't think there's much in it, but Trossard is my preference. Luca de Gabriel says, locked in my transfers, Lautaro, Raya, Doué, Saka and Ferran Torres for Mbappe, Rodgers, Kane, Courtois and Bellingham. Lewandowski will stay in the team unless he doesn't play next week. Well, based on what I saw, and I think we've all seen, with Barcelona confirming the Lewandowski injury, he will likely miss both semi-finals. I'd be very surprised if he was rushed back for the second leg, but maybe if Inter Milan carry a draw or a positive result into the San Siro, maybe Lewandowski is kind of rushed back a little bit, and he's the type of player who's rarely injured, so he's a bit of a machine. He can come back, but yeah, I just don't see it happening based on what the Barcelona doctors have confirmed. So yeah, once again, Surav, Pavard is out. I'll try not to kind of repeat myself too much. Zodiac says, I consider sticking with Arsenal, or stacking with Arsenal, so I can gain rank from 4k to 1k. I'd highly encourage going a bit different whenever possible. What I'm doing is kind of like the best team on paper from my perspective, but at the same time, it might not be that differential. And it's also about the combination of players you have, but because we've only got 4 teams remaining, we'll naturally gravitate towards the same players like Yamal and Rafinha, Ferran Torres, if you want to triple up on Barcelona defensively, you'd have a 4th or 5th player from Barca in Koundé and Szczesny maybe. So we're all going to go for very similar players. So if you have that kind of idea of Arsenal winning the first leg or keeping a clean sheet, then go all in. I think that's a good strategy. Juan says, captain for tomorrow. As covered in my team selection and best team videos, Rafinha is my favourite. If you want to go differential, Torres is the one I actually highlighted, but Rafinha for me. Thomas says, what do you think? Who will be the second striker for Inter Milan? Marcus Thuram. I think it's probably worth going into that because we are getting a lot of Thuram questions and that's been covered quite a lot already. So let's go to the full screen and let's go to Predict 6 very quickly. And hopefully if there's time, I'll go back to this before the deadline. I've currently gone for Arsenal 2, PSG 1, and I've put Arsenal to score first, a goal in the first half, for Arsenal to be 1-0 up at half-time. No assist for Hakimi, and despite owning him in UCL Fantasy, I hope he blanks. Will Rice score in this match? I've put no. Hopefully he does. And that is it for those predictions. And for Barca Inter Milan, I've gone for 3-1. I was going to go for something a bit closer, and maybe I will in the end, but with Inter Milan's recent form, I could see Barca maybe establishing a commanding lead here. So let's see if I can get these predictions as well. So I've put Barca to score first, kind of standard. 1-0 Barca at half-time. A goal in the second half. Lautaro Martinez to score. I've put yes. He's done it before at the San Siro, I believe. And Rafinha to be awarded player of the match. And he should have got it, by the way, in the first leg against Borussia Dortmund, but they gave it to Robert Lewandowski. So I was a bit hard done by, I think, with that prediction. But there you go. Quite standard stuff. I was going to go for 2-0 Arsenal as well, but difficult game to predict, I think. I'm more confident on tomorrow, but I think it is, on the whole, quite evenly matched, all these semi-finals. So let's go to the polls. And there are more votes being casted as we speak, but Ferran Torres is leading this vote for the best midfielder. Kvaratskhelia is second, Merino is third, and Olmo is fourth. But, as I mentioned in the poll, there are alternative options like Martinelli, Trossard, Rice, Vitinha, Pedri, Fermin Lopez, and Çalhanoğlu, not to mention Odegaard. So you are sport for choice in that midfield. The same can't be said for the forward line. And for the Tuesday captaincy, a lot of you are going for Dembele, who has 53% of the vote. Saka is second with 36%. Merino is third with 7%. And the other option has only 4% of the votes. Remember, captain a Tuesday player first. Don't captain Rafinha or Ferran Torres, because you can actually gain an advantage by going for that Tuesday captain. If it doesn't work well, you can then switch it after today's games and before tomorrow's start. And then you can basically maximize your chance of getting points that way. The same goes for substitutions. That is pretty much covered to death as well in all of my UCL Fantasy videos and live streams. And I'd also encourage you to check out my How to Play UCL Fantasy guide and the chip strategy video, because some people still don't know exactly how UCL Fantasy works in certain metrics and also components of the game. So Ben White and Merino trained yesterday, which is positive news for Arsenal, and both of them are in contention to start, especially Merino. Lewandowski will be out for 3 weeks apparently, and this was from the 20th of April. So yeah, with that kind of timeline, it looks like he'll miss matchday 16 as well. So this is a report that I found quite strange. So apparently Hansi Flick will rotate against Inter Milan. It's a Champions League semi-final. You're up against one of the best teams in the world, despite their form. I know Barcelona are also knackered. They had a, obviously, very thrilling game on Saturday, the Copa del Rey final. They went to extra time, but I just don't see them rotating as much as this report suggests. So Pavard is out to face Barcelona, as mentioned before. So if you have Benjamin Pavard, I'd highly encourage you to get rid of him. And Bissek is expected to replace him in that lineup. And speaking of which, well, I'm going to show you the Sky Sports Italia lineup very soon. But this is something that Morata said, the president of Inter Milan. So Thuram, he's slowly getting better. I'm optimistic that he'll be there on Wednesday against Barcelona. And this is what Sky Sports Italia have gone for. So Sommer in goal, Bissek, Acerbi, Bastoni, Dumfries, Barella, Çalhanoğlu, Mkhitaryan, and DeMarco, Lautaro Martinez, and Thuram up front. So the latest report on the Frenchman in particular is that he trained with the group this morning. And from yesterday, this is the report. So Thuram is expected to be involved in partial group training today. So that's on Monday, with the aim to take part in full group training tomorrow. On Wednesday, Inzaghi will decide whether the forward starts against Barcelona or not. So it's worth really being, kind of doubling down on this and emphasizing this point, Thuram is not nailed on to start, because if they find out or kind of have that sensation he's not fully fit and ready to start the game from the get-go, they will have him on the bench and start Arnautovic or Taremi, and in that case I think Arnautovic probably has the nod. But in that Sky Sports Italia lineup, they have gone for Thuram, and it looks like he will get the nod over the other striker options there to partner Lautaro Martinez. So that is the lineup. I'll probably go back to this at some stage later in the stream, and very soon I'll show you the confirmed lineup of Arsenal versus PSG. But it's also worth going to UEFA.com at any point this season. So with Arsenal PSG, they think that Raya will start in goal. What a shock. Timber, Saliba, Kivior, Lewis Skelly, Odegaard, Rice, Marino, Saka, Trossard and Martinelli. The players who are out for the Gunners include Gabriel Jesus, Havertz, Tomiyasu, and Thomas Partey is suspended, whilst Calafiori, Jorginho and White are doubtful. White should be in the squad, but Jorginho and Calafiori will not make it, according to reports, and I don't think Jorginho will play again for several weeks, actually. With PSG, they've got no injuries or suspensions, and their lineup will likely be Donnarumma, Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho, Nuno Mendes, João Neves, Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, Doué, Dembele and Kvaratskhelia, which is essentially what they played over the weekend in their first Ligue 1 defeat of this season against Nice. For Barcelona Inter Milan, they have gone for Szczesny in goal, Koundé, Kubarsi, Inigo Martinez, Gerard Martin, De Jong, Pedri, Yamal, Olmo, Rafinha, and Ferran Torres. Bernal, Casado, and Lewandowski are out, whilst Balde is doubtful, but the report I talked about yesterday in my team selection video indicates that Balde could be back, at least in the squad. For Inter Milan, they've also gone for an identical lineup to what I just showed you, but I think the key change here in UEFA.com's lineup is they've put Carlos Augusto and not DeMarco to start at left wing back, but the rest are the same with Sommer, Acerbi, Bastoni, Dumfries, Kalinoglu, Mkhitaryan, Barella, DeMarco, Lautaro Martinez and Thuram. Actually, they do have DeMarco in there, so they've actually got Augusto as a left centre-back instead of Bisek, so I do think Sky Sports Italia is more reliable there with Inter's predicted lineup. So according to UEFA.com, there are no players who are out for the Nerazzurri, whilst Pavard and Thuram are doubtful, but the reports do indicate that Pavard is out and Thuram will be in the squad, and it's a matter of whether he starts or not tomorrow night. So let's now go back to my UCL Fantasy team, and let's try to be differential. I'm not going to make any transfers just yet, so let's see how things go there. Nick says, if I have 5 unavailable players, should I wildcard or wait? Well, the thing is with the wildcard in Matchday 17, for example, you will get 5 free transfers once more. You also get free transfers for the second leg of the semi-finals, and I just rather use it now, and it can also give the ability to go differential in certain aspects. So, for example, compared to my defensive line, you might want to go all in on Arsenal, for example, if you're backing an Arsenal clean sheet for the first leg at least. So I'd encourage you to wildcard now, Nick. Jeremy says, is Martinelli a good punt? Yes, and I think he will start, but just wait for the lineup. And you know, with all of these Arsenal or PSG questions, is this player going to start? I'd highly encourage you to just wait a little bit. The next question is, hi Dylan, best match day to wildcard? Probably now, but it is team dependent. I get that. You might have 5 free transfers and that pretty much sorts your team and you don't really feel the need to make any more changes. I get it, but I'd wildcard now and go a bit differential if you can. Easy says, between Real Madrid attackers and PSG, which is more scary to face? Well, on paper, it would be Real Madrid because Mbappe is classed as one of the best players in the world. The same goes for Vinicius, competing for Ballon d'Ors and stuff like that. Rodrigo as well. But I think PSG are a better team right now. And Dembele is the most informed forward, arguably, in the world right now in 2025. But yeah, I think Real Madrid have the scary attack on paper, not to mention Jude Bellingham. Is Thuram available? Yes. Saliba or Inigo Martinez? I'll be honest, I think Barcelona... I mean, I have gone for 3-1 in my prediction, and for Arsenal, I went for 2-1, but I do think Barca might be slightly more likely to keep a clean sheet than Arsenal. That's my gut feeling. Zodiac says, I find it hard to enjoy UCL if I don't beat my record. That's kind of sad, right? Do you feel the same way? Not necessarily. I mean, it's always a bit disappointing if you're kind of like doing worse than ever, or if you're not beating your best ever rank, but if you finish in the top 1k, for example, that's very difficult to better. I'm lucky enough to have done it twice in UCL Fantasy, but I just enjoy it. You know, I try to enjoy it as much as possible. I will admit that it is more exciting at the beginning of the season, hence why more people watch the live streams and videos, because you've got more options to choose from, more differentials, whilst at this stage, we're all going for the same teams and gravitating towards the same options. So I do get your point, but in terms of rank, I don't really feel the same way. Julian says, my first season, do transfers roll? So yeah, transfers do not roll. And as I've said in many videos, including my How to Play UCL Fantasy Guide and the Chip Strategy podcast, transfers can only be rolled in the league phase, aka the group stages. You cannot do it in the knockout phase or the knockout playoff rounds. So hopefully that is all understood. Nick says, I am 12k right now and followed your every UCL deadline. Thanks. Well, I'm glad to hear it, Nick. Hopefully you're enjoying yourself in the process, and that's a great rank to be at. I know I'm disappointed with where I am, but you know, it's still decent overall, and as long as you're enjoying the game, that's the most important thing. Thank you, by the way, to Keith for moderating the chat. You know, if you are patient, you will have your question and comment answered. So try to be patient and not spam. Otherwise, you will basically not have any question answered. Thank you, Alberto. Always good to see you. Juan says, best two Barca defenders. Koundé for me is the standout. And then I would lean towards Inigo Martinez. Calhanoglu's fine, but I just don't rank him as highly as Olmo, Ferran Torres, one of Marino or Trossard, depending on who starts up front for Arsenal. And possibly Kvaratskhelia and Martinelli. Rice as well, I'd also rank a little bit higher for Matchday 15 at least. I'd be more keen on Calhanoglu in the second leg, but against Barcelona away, I'm less keen. Fonder11 puts his team. I will only have Szczesny in goal and two forwards though. So your transfer plans are Kim Min-jae, Barcola, Bellingham, Lewandowski, Mbappe to Koundé, Torres, Saka, Doué and Martinez. That's fine. I mean, with goalkeepers, I wouldn't take a hit for, you know, have a second option. As long as you've got one and you're not down to 10 men, that's absolutely fine. And Szczesny is arguably the best goalkeeper for Matchday 15, in my opinion. Morado CR82 says, Hola Dylan, ¿a quién quito para comprar a Saka, a Calhanoglu o Kvaratskhelia? También tengo a Rafinha, Yamal y Dembele, pero no pienso venderlos. Saludos. Para mí es mejor vender a Calhanoglu. El único problema que tengo con eso es que Calhanoglu es el... bueno, él toma penales para Inter Milán, así que eso no me gusta vender a alguien que tiene penales, pero yo creo que Kvaratskhelia es un poquito mejor que Calhanoglu, por lo menos en la jornada 15. So hopefully my chat also refreshes and I can get to the latest questions as well, but let's also skim through these and see what else people have said. Ahmed mentions, I'm 46 points away from first in the mini-league. Do I go Skelly, Kivior or Saliba? Well, my favourite is Saliba, but because you are trying to chase, and I'll be honest, 46 points at this point is going to be very difficult to kind of claw back. But in this sort of scenario, you have to think outside the box and maybe go for two of them at the same time. So if you are backing an Arsenal clean sheet, go for maybe 3 or 4 Arsenal defenders, including the goalkeeper, to differentiate yourself from the player who is 46 points ahead. Zodiac says you should pick 5 differentials to gain rank. As you say, this is your worst season. You can only win from here. Well, yes, but I've also got a mini league where if I'm not careful, I can be leapfrogged. And, you know, I'm also quite, you know, conscious of that. And I'm going for players that I think will score the most points. But in my position, I'm kind of limited in my options because I've got 3 forwards who basically need to be sold. So I can't go different in the forward line. I get your point. It is a good one, but it's impossible for me to go different in the forward position because we've only got 3 forwards to choose from. Now, in the midfield, Ferran Torres has 1% ownership, by the way. He's not like he's a template pick with 30-40% ownership. He might go up to like 10% by the end of the deadline, but I would still class Ferran Torres as a relative differential. And then in goal, yeah, it's between Raya or Donnarumma. So I'm just going to go for Raya. I haven't had a double Arsenal defence all season virtually, and they've been the best or second best defence in UCL Fantasy and the Champions League. So I'm kind of limited in my options, except the midfielder, where I can go for anybody really, but I just don't really see it as being worthwhile changing my defensive line when I've got 3 forwards who are eliminated, a midfielder, and also a goalkeeper. So that's where I need to focus my attention to. Sasko Reacts 2 says, would you rather keep Lewandowski and get Timber, Ferran for Vitinha, Marquinhos, or get Thuram and keep one of the PSG duo? That is a good question. My personal preference would be the Timber and Ferran Torres route. But it does mean one, you know, less player. I mean, that can be compensated for if your Tuesday players do really well and you only sub out, let's say, 1 or 2 of them. So you're in a strong position for tomorrow. But yeah, that is my gut feeling there. Easy says, I think most likely lowest point hits with tournament now already in the semi-final stage. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but because of the extended format, by the way, this is the first time I've reached over 1,000 points in UCL Fantasy, and that's something I've never done even when I finish in the top 800. Wei Sing says, do you think it's already a free advance for Barca? No. They are the favourites. I think they will go through, but that just isn't the case, especially in the Champions League. Lucas says, in my opinion, I think it's not worth it to take a -4 to get Lewandowski out at this stage of the competition. I agree. I mean, if you had another forward like Mbappe or Kane, someone of that quality and with a great fixture, I'd be like, go for it. But it's hard to see Lautaro Martinez, Doué, or Thuram on paper doing that well to justify a -4 here. So I agree with you. I would rather focus your transfers elsewhere. Saka or Torres tomorrow? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Just captain Saka today and then Ferran Torres tomorrow. If you ask me to pick one of them, I'd still go for Saka, but it is a closer one, I guess. MK says, would you have Dumfries against Barcelona's high line? It's better than having another ball recovery defender. Yeah, so if I'm building a wildcard or limitless team now, one of the changes I'd possibly make is Dumfries in for Bastoni. But let's not forget that Bastoni can score goals from set pieces, and he won player of the match in the first leg against Bayern Munich. So I still think he can compete with Dumfries and get more ball recoveries. It's just, with what you say, Barcelona will likely score, and then for Inter Milan, you're kind of relying on attacking potential from your defenders, and Dumfries has that in abundance. Ali says, what are your thoughts on Darmian? Well, he was a very good UCL fantasy option in years gone by, but if I'm picking an Inter Milan defender now, it's going to be either Dumfries or Bastoni, and if I'm maybe building a team fresh, Dumfries could be a slight concern with minutes, but I still would rather go for him than Bastoni, but not by much, to be honest. I think those two are the standouts. A real lack of forwards, to be honest. Yeah, it is a shame, Antonio, but that's pretty much the position we're in. Yeah, DeMarco will likely play, yeah. Heard Darmian could be back, but they don't really compete for the same position unless they get a lot of injuries in the centre-half positions, which would then mean a bit of changing there. But yeah, Darmian essentially plays as a right centre-back, and he is right-footed. He's not really a left wing-back by trade. Mick says, I went for 4-1 Barca. I've gone for 3-1, but I'll be honest, if it wasn't for Inter Milan's recent form, I would have gone for a closer scoreline, like 2-1 or maybe even a draw. Gabriel says, best goalkeepers. I'd say Raya and Szczesny at the moment. Now, if you've got 2 or 3 Barca defenders and you want that Inter Milan coverage, then Sommer's fine. But I think for matchday 15, Raya and Szczesny are the best. Hopefully not Barbary. Hopefully Arsenal win. I don't really care about the other one. Eduardo says, where is that poll? Well, I showed them earlier, Eduardo. I showed different screens and I put a poll out for the best midfielder to, buy for matchday 15, and also a captaincy poll. I'll show them again very soon, but I also want to keep things a bit fresh. And speaking of which, let me show you some different screens as well. Like this video if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and all that good stuff. Thank you to those that are tuning in to every single deadline stream and video. It is very much appreciated. And these are the team selection graphics from yesterday with some modifications. So I have modified the money in the bank because I've got 9.5 million after making these moves. Of course, nothing is set in stone, but I'll wait for the lineups and then confirm my transfers. So that was my matchday 14 performance. Courtois did well for me, saving a penalty. Nuno Mendes and Hakimi scored. Bukayo Saka scored despite missing a penalty. Dembele got an assist on one player of the match. Everybody else in that midfield blanked, and Harry Kane scored. But Mbappe as my captain just didn't do the business. If I'd gone for even Harry Kane as my captain, that would have been enough to get a small green arrow. Everyone on my bench blanked because Barcelona heavily disappointed against Borussia Dortmund, and that meant a small red arrow of a few hundred places, and I only got 56 points in matchday 14. So one of the worst match days of the season, arguably. But in terms of my plans, Courtois to Raya is almost locked in. I think he's my favourite Tuesday goalkeeper, but you might feel differently with Donnarumma. Now, Rodgers to Ferran Torres is the most likely, but I'm still considering Declan Rice, Odegaard, Marino, Trossard, Vitinha, Kvaratskhelia, Dani Olmo, Pedri. All of these players are being considered. Kalinoglu is also not too far behind, but I think the main players in that midfield to replace Rodgers is whoever starts up front for Arsenal in Trossard or Marino and Ferran Torres. Those are my favourite options, and when I recorded the team selection video yesterday, both Torres and Marino had 1% ownership, so they are massive differentials at the moment. That might change a little bit by the end of this stream. So in terms of forwards, I basically have an injured Lewandowski, an eliminated Harry Kane and Mbappe, so I just feel the need to make 3 forward transfers, and there are only 3 forwards to choose from in Doué, who might be benched today, but I think he will start, and I think he could be a decent differential captain for today. Lautaro Martinez is by far the best striker that I don't own in UCL Fantasy, and not having him for the quarterfinals was actually quite painful in the end, but buying him for Lewandowski is pretty much locked in for me. And the other one is about who starts alongside him for Inter Milan. And the recent reports, as covered on this channel and during this deadline stream, will be Marcus Thuram, not Arnautovic or Taremi, which looked likely yesterday. And Thuram is in a great position now to start and make his return there against Barcelona. So with those 5 transfers, this is how my team would line up provisionally, because I think the one spot that could change is that 5th midfielder. So instead of Ferran Torres, I might go in a different direction by the end. But Raya in goal against PSG, I've got Saliba, Hakimi and Nuno Mendes. So I've got an entire backline full of Tuesday players. I've also got Saka, Yamal, Rafinha and Dembele, and a front line, and the only front line you can really build right now, of Thuram, Lautaro Martinez and Doué. As for the bench, it looks very solid. I've got 15 playing players on paper. So I've got Szczesny, Koundé, Bastoni and Ferran Torres at the moment. And in terms of the captaincy, it is quite template, but Saka is my current Tuesday preference and Rafinha will be my backup captain tomorrow. But I am seeing a lot of you going for Dembele captain on the Tuesday, so it seems like that might be the most popular choice, but Saka is going to be second there. And if you really want to go up those mini leagues and the rankings, I would encourage you to be different at this stage of the competition. And if you got the wild card, play it now and go for some differences, maybe triple or quadruple up on a defense. That can really gain you points. It is kind of like feast or famine. I did that actually last season in the Champions League final, and I went all in on Real Madrid. And whilst, you know, my Champions League final record hasn't been great in recent seasons because sometimes I've backed the wrong horse, like Man City against Chelsea a few years ago. But last year I got it spot on, and by going for like a triple up in that Real Madrid defense, I got a massive rank rise. I also had Carvajal who scored and got player of the match. So sometimes those differentials can really help you climb those ranks and the mini leagues. Let me also show you the odds, which maybe some of you haven't seen yet. So Arsenal are top in terms of keeping a clean sheet for this week, and it is a 33% chance against PSG. Barcelona are second. We've got the Parisians in third, and Inter Milan in last place with only a 15% chance according to fantasyfootballpundit.com. Now with the goal scorer odds, they have been modified as Robert Lewandowski is out. So Rafinha is top, Yamal, Dembele, Torres and Saka are in the top 5. And we've also got Lautaro Martinez, Trossard, Gonzalo Ramos, Martinelli, Wanyeri, Thuram, Merino, Olmo, Barcola and Odegaard. But not all of these players will start. The main ones to kind of highlight as, you know, very unlikely to get the nod in that lineup would be Trossard I think could start, so I'll ignore him. Gonzalo Ramos, Wanyeri. I would also say Barcola. I think those 3 won't start, but we will get the lineup for Arsenal PSG very soon. So definitely try not to ask any questions about who's going to start for Arsenal PSG, because I think that'd be quite redundant. And I'll also play these graphics here, and you can see the quarterfinal results for the second leg and also the fixtures that we have tonight and also tomorrow. The bracket, we have come a long way in the knockouts already, and time does fly in UCL Fantasy. So the winner of Arsenal or PSG will face Barcelona or Inter Milan, and we could get a first-time Champions League winner. In terms of the top scorer, Guirassy is first with 13. Rafinha is second with 12, and he's the favourite now to win that European Golden Boot, at least the Champions League competition. Harry Kane is third, joint third with Lewandowski. Vinicius, Martinez and Haaland complete this list with 8 goals. So we essentially have Rafinha, Lewandowski and Lautaro battling it out. And with Lewandowski missing both semi-finals, you'd have to give the Brazilian a massive advantage there. But maybe Guirassy holds on and he wins the top scorer of this competition. And finally, with the assists, we've got Rafinha top with 7, Kimmich with 6, Hakimi has 5, and the rest are eliminated in Frimpong, De Ketelaere and Zappacosta, who also share 5 assists. Now, with Arsenal PSG, I want to kind of quickly run through some updates. I know I've done that already in this stream, but I'm going to do that one more time. So let me get up these notes I've got. So for Arsenal, they recently drew 2-2 versus Crystal Palace on Wednesday night after rotating several key players like Saka. The Gunners are unbeaten in 12 matches with 6 wins and 6 draws. Ben White wasn't in the Arsenal squad once again to face Crystal Palace. The same goes for Marino, who was a major doubt to play actually against PSG, but both players trained on Monday and are in contention to start, and in the next 10-20 minutes we will get the lineups for both teams. Calafiori, Jorginho and Havertz are ruled out. Jesus, Gabriel and Tomiyasu are unavailable for the rest of the season, and there are no suspension risks now because the yellow cards have been reset. However, Thomas Partey did pick up his third booking in Matchday 14, and that means he's unavailable to play PSG tonight. That is the only suspension across all 4 semi-finalists. For PSG, they have 28 wins, 3 draws and 3 losses from the last 34 games. However, in the last 4 matches, they only have 1 victory in that time frame, and the Parisians lost in Ligue 1 for the first time this season, and Nice got a 3-1 win away from home. PSG played the strongest lineup, and Dembele picked up an assist, and there are no injuries or suspensions for PSG. Now, moving on to tomorrow's game between Barcelona and Inter Milan. Of course, the Catalans won the Copa del Rey against the arch-rivals Real Madrid in extra time. Koundé scored the winner, and the other goals were scored by Pedri and Ferran Torres. They have 8 wins out of the last 10 matches and sit top of La Liga by 4 points. Lewandowski will miss Matchday 15 through injury and will likely miss the second leg as well. Ter Stegen, Casado and Bernal remain unavailable. On the other hand, Balde could be fit versus Inter Milan, and there are no suspensions there for Barcelona. And for Inter Milan, they are winless in 4 matches after losing 1-0 at home versus Roma. That marks 3 successive defeats across all competitions, and that includes a 3-0 loss against AC Milan in the Coppa Italia semi-finals. They lost 4-1 on aggregate. Napoli actually leapfrogged Inter Milan to first place in that Serie A table, and Dumfries made his return on Sunday as a substitute. However, Pavard was subbed off due to injury and will now not play in Matchday 15. He is unavailable. Benjamin Pavard is a sell in UCL Fantasy, and the reports indicate that Thuram will start. He took part in full team training today, so things bode very well for him, and we could see that striker partnership of him and Lautaro Martinez, which is the best that Inter Milan have to offer. So after all of that breakdown with the team news, injury updates, stats, and also my team selection, let's go back to my squad before making any single transfer. And as you can see, I've got 10 players available. I've got Lewandowski who's injured. I've got an eliminated Courtois, Kane, Mbappe, and Rodgers. All of them will be sold, and the only way I can go different from my position is to pick a solid 5th midfielder. And if I get that spot on, that could be the foundation for a green arrow and to end this season very strongly. But for those of the wild card, I have to repeat, go differential and have a few differences in there. If you're backing Arsenal to keep a clean sheet, go all in on Arsenal. The same goes for PSG or any team you back this week. You've got to back your gut there and go for your own predictions and use that to really go for your captaincy options and transfers. And that's really what's going to separate you from the rest of the pack, because everyone is going to have a very similar team at this stage of the competition. So let's now go back to your questions and see what people are saying. And we still have a lot of people watching, but let's get the likes up to 200 plus at the very least, and then push on from there. Subscribe to the channel and check all the links in the description. X, Instagram, Blue Sky, the Discord server, UCL Fantasy League, Patreon, the championships, all of that can be found in the description. All right, let's see. I'm going to go through the member questions, since there are quite a few here. MMK says, Barca rotation rumours are most likely false. Yeah, exactly. It's a Champions League semi-final, and if they rotate, they're going to get absolutely done by Inter Milan, despite their recent form. I agree with you. Let's see the other member questions, because I think there's a few I haven't gone through. Richard Millichip says, worth a -4 to replace one of Szczesny or Sommer? No, not for me. I don't think it's worth taking a hit for a goalkeeper. Please rank best Inter defenders for this game week. Dumfries first, Bastoni second. Kind of tough to say who's third, because I think those two stand out above the rest, but yeah, we'll likely see a Serbi start. I'm not sure if I'd rank him that highly. DeMarco is always a minutes concern. He can be subbed off around 50, 60 minutes, which can play into your hands if Inter Milan keep a clean sheet and you get 60 plus minutes, but that is a double-edged sword. I'd go for DeMarco in third and then a Serbi fourth. That's kind of my ranking. Bisek isn't too shabby, but is he nailed on in the long term? Could we see De Vrij play in the second leg? That is certainly possible. So Abdullah says, Doué starts. I'll go through that very soon. Rafael, Thuram will play apparently, according to Sky Sports Italia. That's been covered before. Lewandowski is out for both legs, it looks like, but Thuram is actually expected to start tomorrow. That's been covered. Marino will score today, says Christian. Hopefully you're correct. Richard says best differential Arsenal defender this week. Yeah, Kivior or Skelly. I'd probably go for Skelly for the attacking threat. He got an assist against PSV and also Real Madrid. Both of them in the... Well, actually, the PSV one was away from home, but I think Skelly has a bit more attacking threat there, so I'd go for him. Thank you, Ahmed, for becoming a differential. Massively appreciated. We are very close to 100 members on YouTube. And if you combine that with Patreon, we have actually reached 100 plus members. So thank you very much for all your support. Remember, you do get early access to my videos and also priority reply to comments in the live streams and videos, amongst many other perks, which can be found in the description as well. Yeah, Lewandowski, Paolo, you have asked this before, and I can't really say in another language. I mean, Lewandowski is out. No va jugar Lewandowski. And I only speak 2 languages, so there you go. Naem says, build your best team for wildcard now. Well, check out my best team video. And the only change I'd make from that is possibly Dumfries for Bastoni. Now, for those that want to go different and you're chasing rank, that's where your predictions come into play. I'm not backing any team to keep a clean sheet at the moment, but if you are, then triple or quadruple up on that defense. That is a great way of differentiating yourself from the rest of the pack. Thank you, Jeff. Hi, Dylan. Love your channel. Good luck this game week. Thank you very much for the positive words and all the best to you as well. Christian says, last time I told you Gracia will score a hat-trick. I don't remember that, to be honest. I see thousands of questions and comments in these UCL Fantasy and FPL Deadline streams, but yeah, it's a good call. I was actually backing Gracia a lot in that Deadline stream, though. I do remember that. In some cases, I did rank Lautaro high and stuff like that. I'm not going to, rewrite history, but I actually recommended to a lot of people to keep Gracia and not sell him for a hit or even for free in many cases. Ratchet says, would you sell Lewandowski for a -4? Probably not, to be honest. No. Richard says, hey Dylan, I have 5 eliminated players and no chips left. Is it worth a -4 to also replace Lewandowski this week? Yeah, as I just mentioned now to another comment, I would say no. Welcome, Barif. Good to see you. We're going to go through that right now because it looks like we do have the lineup. So let's go to the Arsenal and PSG lineups according to UEFA.com. So let's start off with the home team. Arsenal have Raya in goal. They've also got Saliba, Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, Timber, Kivior, Trossard, Marino, Rice, and Lewis Skelly. So that means Marino's in the midfield. Rice will replace Thomas Partey as the holding midfielder, and Trossard will play down the middle. And that is exactly what UEFA.com went for in their predicted 11. Now for PSG, they've got Donnarumma, Hakimi, Marquinhos, Kvaratskhelia, Fabian Ruiz, Dembele, Doué, Vitinha, Nuno Mendes, Bacho, and João Neves. So an unchanged team, I think, from their last game in the Champions League and also on Saturday against Nice, where they lost 3-1. So Doué does start, and that really just pushes you towards buying him as your forward. And we've only got 3 to choose from in that position. So that's a good start for the limited options we have up front. And no real surprises in those lineups. Let's also check the benches very quickly. So we've got Neto there for Arsenal, Setford, Tierney, White, Sinchenko, Sterling, Bartoli-Odage, Henry Francis, Cabia, and Nwaneri, with Partey suspended. PSG have Safonov, Tenas, Kimpembe, Gonzalo Ramos, Kang Lee, Lucas Hernandez, Mayulu, Barcola, Zaire Emery, Lucas Beraldo, and Mbaye. So yeah, quite a weak bench there for Arsenal in my opinion, but Ben White is available. That is a boost. He has suffered from several injury problems since his surgery, unfortunately, but he is a quality right back and hopefully we can see him start games very soon. But yeah, I'll go back to this at one stage. We'll see the projected formations as well on this website. So yeah, it's worth going back to this in a little while and also to recap on who's starting or not. But yeah, Trossard could be a great differential in the midfield. I'd be less keen on Marino now. I'm not saying he can't score from the midfield. It is possible, but I think the go-to Arsenal midfielder alongside Saka would be Trossard, and Martinelli would also be ranked higher than Marino based on those lineups. Josh says, hi Dylan, playing Limitless next week. Is this a good team right now? Thuram, Martinez, Lewandowski, Rafinha, Yamal, Dembele, Torres, Hakimi, Bastoni, Pavard and Szczesny, Saka and Saliba. It is a good team. I'm trying to think of it. So yeah, you can make the 5 free transfers now. Use the Limitless in Matchday 16 where you only get 3 transfers available, and then use 5 transfers for the final. And remember, Matchday 17 is very easy to kind of navigate in most cases because you only need a starting 11. You don't need options on the bench because you can't make substitutions by that stage. So I think you're probably right to limit us in matchday 16. Lewandowski will not play, probably in matchday 16 either, just to let you know. But keeping him and then using the limitless in matchday 16 could bode well for you. You save a transfer, have Lewandowski for the Champions League final if Barcelona go through. So yeah, it's a good squad. But let's actually count the players as well. So you got 4, well, no Lewandowski, so 3, 4, 5. You got 12 players. I mean, it's not bad, but I think a lot of people will have 13 plus. I think it's quite easy to get to 14, 15 playing or available players with just a -4 here or free transfers. Saka or Trossard? Saka. I know in recent weeks Trossard has been brilliant in FPL, but in the Champions League, I think Saka is the best one. Yeah, I agree. Trossard is now second in my Arsenal midfielder captaincy list and also for the midfielder rankings. Now what it comes down to for me is probably Trossard, Martinelli or Ferran Torres as my 5th midfielder. And I'll put a poll out very soon, actually, on this channel. Yeah, I do like Olmo. He's someone I should have mentioned more in my best team and team selection videos. I do admit that, but it's difficult because you've also got Ferran Torres. Pedri's decent, but I would rank Olmo higher than him. Insane Gamer 7 says Raya, Luis Skelly, Kivio. Yeah, so that's been covered. Thank you very much. Pavard is out, Araf, which has also been talked about. Sabri says, Dylan, if I don't use all my transfers, the answer is no. That's already been it's already been answered and asked before. And yeah, basically you can only roll transfers in the league phase. You can't do in the knockout stages. It's all in the rules as well. Yeah, and Naim, if you're just going to repeat the same thing, I'm just not going to do it. And also, like I said before, it is also covered in my best team video. I made it for a reason. If you go to that, only one change will be made there, potentially in Dumfries for Bastoni. So feel free to check it out if you want. Otherwise, you can build your own team. Marino midfielder? Yeah, I'm less keen on him right now in UCL Fantasy, I do admit. Raul says, have Raya but no into defense, Dumfries or Saliba? I'd go for Dumfries here. I think the thing is, I think Barcelona will score 100%. With Arsenal, they still have a little bit of a chance of a clean sheet, and they are top for this week with the odds, and Inter Milan are bottom. But I have to say, Raul, if you are quietly confident about an Arsenal clean sheet, then just ignore what I said and go all in on Arsenal with a double or triple up defensively. But from my perspective, I'd balance things out a little bit and go for Dumfries for the attacking threat. So it really depends on your rank. Are you happy where you are? Do you want to, go really aggressive? And are you backing an Arsenal clean sheet? In my case, I think every single team will score in matchday 15, and that's why I go for Dumfries. Money Shot says Ferran or Kvaratskhelia. Ferran Torres for me. Lewandowski is out here now. Irakli says Captain Dembele or Saka. Saka for me at the moment. Dembele is not too far behind though. Virat says hi, Lewandowski injured. He probably won't be fit for the second leg, which I've also said a few times. Easy says with now fewer games, potentially less points now. We kind of expect more points from players from 4 remaining teams. Yeah, you can't gain too much at this point of the season, which is why, whenever possible, go for differentials. And, for example, a few years ago in the Champions League final, it was Kingsley Coman scoring the winning goal, and I didn't have him. So sometimes having that kind of low-owned player really helps you to make up gains on the rest. CR says, hello Dylan, I have 6 players who have been eliminated and there are only 5 transfers. What should I do? Mbappe. Let me just get your question up again since there's a lot of questions coming in. Kane, Adeyemi, Rice and Courtois, Kobel. Yeah, just make 5 transfers and don't take a hit for a goalkeeper. So just buy 1, and I think Szczesny is my favourite for this week. But I think Arsenal would be probably the second most likely to keep a clean sheet this match day, and according to the odds, they are top. So yeah, buy one of Raya or Szczesny for Courtois or Kobel. I mean, you might as well just sell Courtois, even though budget isn't an issue anymore. Doesn't really matter. And then yeah, so Mbappe, Kane, Adeyemi, Rice. I think that's quite simple there. Who to captain? Saka or Dembele? As covered just now, Saka for me. Yeah, Doué, I'm going to buy him in. Who is the best in goal this week? Szczesny's first, Rice second. Then I'd probably put Donnarumma third this week and Sommer fourth. Overall, though, I think Sommer's a better option than Donnarumma, so it goes both ways. Yamal or Ferran Torres? Difficult one. I'd actually go for Ferran Torres right now. Thuram could play Eric, as covered before. Dembele, try not to repeat yourself, please. Pavard playing, no. I'm just going to go for some different things now, just for the sake of repetition. Ahmed says, I have 6 players to change. Lewandowski, Mbappe, Garassi, I'm guessing that is. Adeyemi, Elise plus Sommer and Chesney, who to change. Don't... Well, you got Sommer and Chesney, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they both play each other, but... Just keep your goalkeepers. I'd start Chesney and then focus your transfers on the outfield players. Up front, Lautaro Martinez is the standout to buy, but you don't really have much choice. The others include Doué and Thuram, who will likely start tomorrow, according to the reports. I'd also recommend buying, well, I don't know who you have already, which makes this difficult to say, but the best midfielders right now are Rafinha, Yamal, Saka, Dembele, and then probably Ferran Torres for me. You might even want to go for Trossard, so buy one of those midfielders. Or two of them, actually, because you also mentioned Elise. Thank you, Julio Pena. Good to see you. Hi, Dylan. Who is the best third forward to get besides Lautaro and Doué? Thuram will likely start tomorrow, so he is the one. Now, it isn't absolutely guaranteed that he will start. It could be Arnautovic or Taremi. It all depends on how Thuram feels tomorrow and Inzaghi's final decision on Wednesday. But it looks like Thuram will start, so he is my answer. Also, if I don't use all my 5 free transfers, can I roll? No. You can't roll in the knockout stages, only in the league phase. Yeah, Bastoni will start. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. He's in every single lineup and there are no injuries there to report. I would just wildcard Aaron. Why would you take a -8? It makes no sense at this stage of the competition. Just wildcard and go differential if possible. I don't think so, Shame. Unless you're buying Lautaro Martinez, and even then I'm skeptical, I would not take a -4 hit. Pavard will not play. He is out. Ferran Torres or Yamal? Slight preference for Ferran Torres personally, as a differential, and also playing down the middle for Barcelona. Yeah, wasting, of course, Arsenal can do it. They beat Real Madrid, and I think any semi-finalist now has an opportunity to win the Champions League. But you also go back to the summer and the January transfer windows. If Arsenal did more in that, it could be a completely different kind of scenario, and I think Arsenal have an even better chance of winning this competition and the other cups as well, and competitions, but there you go. A10 says, hey guys, good luck to you all. We're dealing with some horrible forward lines this game week. Not even forward lines, we're dealing with one, and it's terrible. So, yeah, it's a big shame. Now, if you wanted to go different, you can just pick Arnautovic or Taremi and hope that they score off the bench, but that's really what you're praying for, and it's not good at all. It's a shame that Ferran Torres isn't classified as a forward, because then I'd happily buy him up front and then get Trossard in the midfield. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. I want to get a good score, and I appreciate all your help. Well, I think this is the place to be to obtain that, and of course, we are going to gravitate towards similar teams, but back your gut, pile up on certain teams if you can, especially on the wildcard or limitless, and I think you're going to be in a great position there. Thuram or Doué? Probably Doué. Zodiac says MMK. I strongly consider both 4K rank and got my wildcard. Jesma says, hello mate, 1 free transfer, 1 forward and 1 defender unavailable. Should I use the free transfer only on one of them or take the -4 to sell both? Probably on one of them, and oddly enough, I'd favour the defender transfer in a lot of scenarios, but buy Lautaro Martinez, no matter what you do, I think he's the best forward overall. Rami says 6 players out this week. Yeah, just wildcard. I think that's very simple. I mean, when are you going to use the wildcard if not now? Because would you take a hit or go down to 14 players, then just use the wildcard next week? I don't think it makes much sense. Mohamed says Lewandowski or Martinez. Lewandowski is out, so the answer is very simple. Ravinder says, Barca fan here. I think Olmo might be key in breaking Inter's compact defence, so he'll be more differential than Ferran, if you're going with Ferran, I mean. Yeah, I get that. In terms of transfers this week, Ferran will be more popular because he plays down the middle. But if we actually go to the transfers here and check the ownership, Torres is still going to be the bigger differential. His ownership is currently 1%. It might go up to 5% by the end of this deadline stream. I do admit that, but Dani Olmo has 4% ownership. They're ultimately both differentials, but at the moment, Ferran Torres has the lower ownership. So since I've been asked a lot about, what would you go to with the best wildcard or limitless team, this is pretty much what I'd go to personally. But if you are backing a team to keep a clean sheet, my advice is to go all in on that team. You might then want to use transfers in the second leg and maybe even for the Champions League final if they are eliminated and stuff like that. But I would always focus on the present, what's right in front of you at this stage of the competition, and just go all in on that certain defence. That might be Arsenal. I think Barcelona are the other one. One of those defences could be worth doubling or tripling up on. In my case, I've got Saliba and Raya and Szczesny and Koundé. I've also got Mendes and Hakimi. So in fact, I've doubled up on 3 of the teams except for Inter Milan, who I think are probably they're least likely to keep a clean sheet in matchday 15, and the odds also suggest that. I also think it's worth going to other screens one more time. So if you haven't already, join the UCL Fantasy League. The code is cCaFxb, and there is an auto-join link in the description, which makes it even easier to join. For Predict 6, I've currently gone for Arsenal 2, PSG 1, and Barcelona 3, Inter Milan 1, but I think both games are quite difficult to predict, to be honest. With the polls, and I'm going to refresh this, and it might be worth updating this particular question in the live stream now, so I'll put another poll out very soon. So Ferran Torres is the most popular choice to buy in matchday 15 as a midfielder. Kvaratskhelia is second. Merino is third, but I'd highly encourage everybody watching to go for Trossard or Martinelli instead, because Merino will play in the midfield. Now, Arsenal could do something quite interesting tactically where Merino and Trossard interchange. I would not be surprised if that happened. We saw something similar earlier this season when Odegaard was injured, and Havertz would basically do that with the midfielder options. So be very careful about that sort of thing. But yeah, I think Merino is less enticing now because he's not playing down the middle according to the formation, and also with Trossard in that starting lineup. With the captaincy, Dembele is the most popular choice with 53%. Let's refresh this and see if that has changed. Wow, it's actually much closer now. 47% for Dembele, and Saka has 42%. Merino is third with 6%, and the other option has 5%. So White and Merino obviously both train. Not really worth talking about this because White is on the bench and Merino is starting. This is the Inter Milan predicted lineup according to Sky Sports Italia. I'm not guaranteeing that this will be 100% correct, but every time I've shown this, they have got it absolutely spot on in every single deadline stream basically this season for UCL Fantasy. And they're backing Thuram to start. The same goes for Dumfries, who will make his return, and Bissek will replace the injured Benjamin Pavard in that defensive line. So it would be Sommer in goal, Bissek, Acerbi and Bastoni, Dumfries, Barella, Kalinoglu, Mkhitaryan and DeMarco, Lautaro Martinez and Thuram. So that would be no Carlos Augusto. He would be on the bench, and the likes of Thuram, Arnautovic would be impact subs if needed. So UEFA.com also have a similar lineup for Inter Milan, but the key change there is they've also gone for Carlos Augusto instead of Bissek. I would disagree with UEFA.com in this particular instance. And for Barcelona, they are backing a kind of, I'd say, predictable lineup. Very easy, I think, to kind of gauge. They've gone for Szczesny, Koundé, Kubarsi, Inigo Martinez, Gerard Martin, De Jong, Pedri, Yamal, Olmo, Rafinha, Ferran Torres. It's not completely reliable or 100% set in stone, but I would also share that sentiment of that being the Barcelona lineup tomorrow. So we'll wait and see how that goes. But yeah, all the players who are out, doubtful, suspended have been covered earlier, and also throughout all my videos this week. And just to go through the lineups one more time, the official ones from Arsenal and PSG. So Rise in goal, we've got Timber, Saliba, Kivior and Lewis Skelly, which is a pretty much a set-in-stone defensive line there for Arsenal. Odegaard, Rice and Merino, and Saka, Trossard and Martinelli are up front. PSG have gone for Donnarumma, Nuno Mendes, Bacho, Marquinhos, Hakimi, Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, João Neves, Kvaratskhelia, Doué and Dembele. So no real surprises there from either lineup. PSG have everyone available. Partey is suspended for the Gunners, and Ben White is in the squad, but not fully fit yet to start the game, and Timber is currently first choice. So before I go back to my team and start making some transfers, let's go through this one more time. The clean sheet and goal scorer odds. Arsenal are top this week with a 33% chance of keeping a clean sheet. Barcelona are second, only just narrowly behind with 32%. PSG are third, and Inter Milan are rock bottom with 15% there. With the goal scorer odds, they have been modified as Robert Lewandowski is out. So they've gone for Rafinha, Yamal, Dembele, Torres and Saka, completing that top 5. You've got Lautaro Martinez, Trossard, Gonzalo Ramos, Martinelli, Nwaneri, Thuram, Merino, Olmo, Barcola and Odegaard in the top 15. But it's worth highlighting that Barcola and Gonzalo Ramos aren't starting. The same goes for Nwaneri. And all of these predictions are with the assumption that these players start, according to fantasyfootballpundit.com. And I think that's pretty much all that's worth talking about again, since I have highlighted a lot of these graphics and also team news and injury updates before. So let's go back to my team and see how things are looking right now. So this is my current squad without making any transfers, and I'll be making modifications very soon. The biggest decision to make is that 5th midfielder. Thank you once more to Paredes for gifting 5 more memberships. You've done a lot for the channel in the last couple of weeks, gifting, I think, over 30 plus now in that time frame. So thank you very much. The same goes to Napstars, and we are very close now to 100 members on YouTube. Miguel C, Victor CU3V4, Alan Roscar, Clinton Mark, and GC London. Enjoy the membership with the early access to my videos and also priority reply to comments and also in the live streams as well. So enjoy that. Yeah, all good, Fondles. How about you? Thank you very much for asking. If I use the Limitless in 15, how many subs will I have in 16? The same as everyone else. You'd get free transfers for the second leg of each round, and you get 5 free transfers for the first leg of each round of the competition, except for Matchday 11, because everyone gets unlimited transfers there, but that doesn't matter now because we are in the endgame territory. Eugenio says, I have to get rid of 7 players and I have 5 free transfers. I wouldn't recommend hits, to be honest. You know, unless you're buying players of Rafinha's quality or something like that, I just don't think a hit is worth it. So, yeah, avoid hits if possible. And if you have 2 goalkeepers playing on the same day, yeah, you don't need to really make a change there. Just focus on the players who are eliminated or injured, like Robert Lewandowski, for example. Risky says, what do you think of this team? I mean, I like it. It's good. Unfortunately, we're all going to have very similar teams, to be honest, but you've got Ryan Skelly. Something a little bit different, I guess. You've also got Szczesny and Koundé, Hakimi and Mendes. So yeah, that's kind of like a typical defensive line, but I do like Skelly and Dumfries as differentials, I will admit. And Trossard in the midfield is, I think, the biggest differential you have and one that I like very much. Unfortunately, we can't go different in the forward line. We literally have only 3 options, unless you want to do something a bit risky, hence your name, and go for Arnautovic or Taremi instead of Thuram. But I think all of them are risks in their own right, and they won't play 90 minutes, that's for sure. Thank you, Beanboy Uli. Your streams are much appreciated throughout the season, Dylan. Thank you very much, and hopefully you find some value tonight. Marino or Ferran Torres? Definitely Ferran Torres right now for me. Now, could Marino score from the midfield? Absolutely, but the chances are slimmer than if he was playing up front, and Ferran Torres will play in that position tomorrow. Should I get Yamal or Trossard? I'll be honest, this is very, very close. I'd still favour Yamal a little bit, but Trossard is right up there for me as one of the best midfielders. And if you want to go different and chase rank, I think Trossard is one of the best options on paper. So yeah, very, very close. I might give a different answer later, but at the moment it is Yamal. I'm very conflicted about that. The Colombian says Rodgers to Trossard or Ferran Torres. Ferran Torres for me at the moment. That is my most likely Rodgers replacement. Well, yeah, easy. Unfortunately, we don't have any choice in the matter, unless, as I said before, you go for Arnautovic or Taremi instead of Thuram. Neo says we'll have almost the same team as you. Only differentials, I have Vitinha and Kvaratskhelia versus your Saka and Torres. I would like your options more, but cannot get there with free transfers. Yeah, that's only one of the few, I guess, good things about my wildcard. You know, in terms of, compared to some people who might have to take hits to get to Saka or Torres or both. But who knows? Maybe Vitinha gets ball recoveries. Kvaratskhelia is also capable of scoring or assisting. So things can go differently to what you expect. And it could be a blessing in disguise for you. Thank you, Jesus. And good luck to you as well. Devor P says, Kvaratskhelia or Martinelli Trossard? I would favour the Arsenal midfielder this week. And Trossard is my favourite. Yeah, that's a close one, Gabriel. I do like Olmo. And he is right up there for me. So in my kind of like top 3 replacements for Rodgers, it would be Ferran Torres, Trossard and Olmo. And then you'd have Martinelli also up there. But I think Ferran Torres is the one. Thank you, Risky, and likewise. Roberto Diorno says, Kvaratskhelia or Ferran Torres? Ferran Torres for me. I know you have 2 Barca midfielders already, but I think this week Ferran Torres looks more appealing. Armando says, ¿utilizarías comodín o -4? Usar el comodín. Sebastian says, what do you think about this team? I want to say my wild card para después. Lewandowski, Kane, Lautaro, Rafinha, Yamal, Dembele, Saka, Ferran Torres, Hakimi, Nuno, Saliba, Koundé, Bastoni, Donnarumma, Sommer. I mean, that's a good team, but why would you want to save the wild card? And you've got 2 players down there with Lewandowski and Kane. The rest looks fine, I will admit, but if you wild card now, you can get 15 players and you can go differential and make some big changes, and you might be backing an Arsenal clean sheet and you go all in on them instead of having a balance with Hakimi, Nuno, Saliba, Koundé and Bastoni. So I just wildcard now, mate. Trossard for the captaincy. I'm not against that. And on the Tuesday, I always encourage people to go a bit different with the captaincy. I'm not really doing it myself. I've got Saka at the moment, but if I were to bring in Trossard, I am actually considering it. Kvaratskhelia or Martinelli Trossard. Sorry, I just went through that, but my chat refreshed. Yeah, good transfers, easy. Federico says, Doué is starting, so Arnautovic or Thuram. It looks like Thuram will start, as covered earlier. Tube says, can I make 5 transfers now and use the Limitless? No, you can't do that. And transfers don't roll anyway. Horacio Hernandez says, hi Dylan, my 5th transfer can be Lewandowski for Thuram or Kim Min-jae for Saliba, Courtois for Raya. I'll be honest, my favourite is probably Kim Min-jae for Saliba. But Thuram has the highest ceiling, I admit. But Saliba can get ball recoveries. He made 11 against Real Madrid in the first leg. And if he can also combine that with a clean sheet, I think Saliba has a decent ceiling for a defender. Yes, Axel, Bastoni is playing. Why would he not? Roberto says Kvaratskhelia or Ferran. Yeah, I probably went through this before, but like I said, my chat is bugging out. So yeah, Ferran. Kvaratskhelia or Doué captain? I'd say neither. And hopefully they both blank. But I would favour, I think Kvaratskhelia a little bit more actually from the two. I would use the Limitless, Eugenio. Flinke says, with Lewandowski out, can I only run a 10-man squad? Any advice? Well, I don't like taking a hit to replace him, but I would try to get a body in. And the best forward is Lautaro Martinez. Then you've got Doué and Thuram. That's the only 3 forwards you have to choose from. So if you think that's worth a -4 hit, go for it. And you're not down to 10 men. But yeah, maybe consider making a change elsewhere, because if you're down to 10, that means you're surely down a few midfielders or defenders, and I'd prioritise that midfield for sure. I wouldn't go Trossard over Saka necessarily, especially as a transfer, but for the captaincy, I think it's worth a punt. Dembele is my favourite PSG captain, and in terms of captaincy options overall for Tuesday, he'd be second. I think Trossard is third, and Saka is first for me. Karim says attackers, it's the desert, almost no choice. We have no choice, is pretty much the brutal truth of it. Thank you, Federico, and good luck. I would go for Saka captain, Ivan. That's my current feeling. Julian says, hey Dylan, I have 1 transfer left. Would you swap Marina for Trossard or just replace Lewandowski with Doué? I'd be very tempted by that Trossard move, but Marino is starting, and if you buy Doué, you are gaining an extra player. So from a quantity perspective, I think that is the logical move. But I have to say I'm very tempted by Trossard in Matchday 15. He is inconsistent, but when he's at it, he can be a difference maker in that attack. He scored against Bayern Munich last season at home, against Porto, which took it to penalties in the round of 16. And in the Premier League, he scored against multiple big clubs like Liverpool. So I think Trossard is a quality option. Thank you, Horacio. Football Life says Trossard captain and back against Saka. Yeah, I don't mind that. I honestly don't. And you always got Rafinha and these other Barca options tomorrow. Maybe you back Inter, but yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, as covered before, I do prefer Ferran Torres a little bit more than Yamal at the moment, but it is close. Saka is the main penalty taker for Arsenal. He sometimes shares with Odegaard, but Saka is number 1. For PSG, I'm fairly sure Dembele is the main penalty taker, but I need to double check that. For Inter Milan, it's Çalhanoğlu. And for Barcelona, well, Lewandowski is obviously out of the equation, so I think right now, that is a good question. I mean, if there are any Barca fans in the chat, do correct me. But I would say either Ferran Torres or Rafinha. But that is the one I'm least sure about. Which goalkeepers would change better, Szczesny or Sommer for Raya? I'd rather keep Szczesny this week. So Thuram will play. Thuram is expected to start tomorrow, yes. I can't guarantee it. So yeah, Maxi, no, I don't think Arnautovic will start. I cannot guarantee it either way. Thuram is the most likely, then it's Arnautovic, and then Taremi. But Sky Sports Italia, who are very reliable with Inter Milan, have put Thuram in that lineup. Pavard is out, Harry. Jesmar says Dumfries or Bastoni. Maybe Dumfries for the attacking threat, but Bastoni will get more ball recoveries, and he's more likely to get Player of the Match awards, as he did in the first leg against Bayern Munich. Para mí, Bautista sería Saka, pero Odegaard no es una mala opción. Ferran Torres or Trossard? Torres is my current preference. And by the way, Odegaard, yes, he is a good pick. He has 7 assists in the last 10 games, but I do prefer Saka, Martinelli, and I think Trossard might be the second best Arsenal midfielder, maybe even the top one this week. Trossard or Marino? Trossard. They could interchange up front. That is a possibility, but Marino will play in the midfield from the get-go, and Trossard will start in that striker role. Vitinha, penalty kick taker, okay, fair enough. Rafinha as well. Yeah, of course, Lewandowski is normally the main one, but yeah, he is obviously not there. Vitinha for PSG, yeah, you are right about that. Rafinha. Oh, right, I'm guessing that's the answer to the penalty thing. Sell Lewandowski, one of my goalkeepers, as the 5th transfer. Have Ryan Donnarumma. Depends which forward you're bringing in. I'm guessing you got Lautaro already, so yeah, I'd probably favour the goalkeeper one, maybe. 15-point difference between us, and that is 10k less rank. Yeah, it's quite tight, I think, in UCL Fantasy, but yeah, I think by this stage of the season, it's very difficult to make up those places, and you need to go differential if possible. Let's see if I can just add a freeze. Nico514 says, I have Lewis Skelly instead of Bastoni. Is that fine? Absolutely. And if you're backing Arsenal to keep a clean sheet, my recommendation is to go all in on that certain defence. Yeah. For me, Chris, it is Raya. I prefer Raya over Donnarumma. Junior says, who'd you back in tonight's game to go through over both legs? Well, there hasn't been us before, to be fair. I'm going for an Arsenal win tonight, but it could be a case of PSG winning the first leg or getting a draw, and then Arsenal win in Paris. I mean, we saw something similar in the women's game, with Arsenal beating the best women's team in the world in Lyon, and no one expected it. So Champions League is completely unpredictable. Home advantage is a thing, and Arsenal are unbeaten in the last couple of years in Europe at the Emirates, but PSG are a top side, and they went to Anfield and won, so it will be a great game. But yeah, my heart says Arsenal. I'll stick with that, but it's a very tough one, and I do think PSG are in a better place with their form and also their available players. They have no suspensions or injuries. Ivan says, who'd you favour to win today? Arsenal for me. Jack says, triple Arsenal defence or Dumfries? Well, Arsenal have a better chance of a clean sheet. But because I'm not backing any clean sheet in Matchday 15, I'd go for Dumfries. But like I said before, the way you make up rank is to go differential. And triple Arsenal is one such structure that can help you attain that. Yeah, we don't have attackers to choose from, unfortunately. Not for me, Christian, because Thuram will likely start tomorrow. Captain Rice, I mean, he got 8 points in the second leg. He obviously got a massive return against Real Madrid in Matchday 13, so he's a great option as well. Yeah, Kivio's fine, but I'll be honest, I'm not going to talk about defenders for my own team because I've got 4 eliminated players in the goalkeeper position, up front, and 1 midfielder. So my transfers speak for themselves. If I already had Raya instead of Courtois, then I would consider going for an extra Arsenal defender or something like that to be a bit different. But I think in my case, I'm quite limited in my transfers. Yeah, Ayub, I used both chips already. I wouldn't captain Saliba personally. I think the best ones to captain are Saka, Dembele and Trossard in that order. I think Martinelli would also be up there. But yeah, I think both teams will score. Goldhead says can bring in Saliba for Kim Min-jae, but Timber looks like a tasty differential. Yeah, I think Timber, Skelly, Kivio, they're all fine. Saliba's the best for ball recoveries, but he is also quite template, so go different when possible, that's fine. Well, Boris, you've only got 3 forwards. Lautaro's top, he's the best one. Prioritise him. Then you've got Doué and Thuram. Those are the 3 to go for. Well, depends, Junior. That happened against Liverpool, but against Aston Villa, they won at home and then lost at Villa Park. So that's what I mean. There's no actual set formula. Football is unpredictable, and sometimes styles are what ultimately determine matches. Fundle says Kvaratskhelia to Torres, Pacho to Nuno, or nothing. My favourite is Kvaratskhelia to Torres. Yeah, Easy, you asked this before and I answered it. I think Real Madrid have a scary attack on paper, but PSG are the better team. Thuram is fit apparently, yes, as covered many times. Miguel says Lautaro, Thuram y Merino or Lautaro, Doué y Ferran Torres. Lautaro, Doué y Ferran Torres. Sheriff says Yamal or Dembele. That is close. I would favour Dembele, I think. Sydney says I'm considering going without any Arsenal player. Well, that's what I mean. Go differential. If you're backing PSG to win or to go through and you want to separate yourself, then go all in on a certain team. That is a way of being different. Captain Saka, Dembele or Doué? Saka for me. Gabriel says I'm feeling Trossard, but that's a massive risk. Yeah, I don't mind Trossard. I'd probably rank Dembele slightly higher than Trossard, but if you're backing the Arsenal win, I honestly don't mind it. Remember, you have a Wednesday captain to go to if needed, so I honestly don't mind that Trossard punt. It's fine, but my ranking, as I just mentioned like 2 minutes ago, I think, Saka first, Dembele second, Trossard third, and Martinelli fourth. Welcome to Stepaki. Calhanoglu's the best Inter midfielder. He's on penalties, but I don't think he's as good on paper as Ferran Torres this week, Dani Olmo. Also, I'd say Trossard and Martinelli, Dembele, Yamal, Rafinha, and Saka. Those would all be ranked higher for me. My favourite, Felipe, is Szczesny. FPL K-Max says, is Pavard to another defender from Inter, Barca, Arsenal worth it for a -4? Probably not. I think players like Hakimi and Nuno Mendes have a high ceiling, so they could be worth buying in, but I don't think it's worth a -4 in most cases. Miguel Rosas says, Lautaro Thuram, that's been covered. Thank you very much. Let's go for some different questions. Thank you, Junior. Sheriff says, tomorrow, captain. Rafinha is my current one, but once more, if you want to go different, Ferran Torres is the play there. Would you switch Darmian? Possibly. And if we do go through that lineup one more time, so let's go to Inter Milan's predicted lineup. Darmian's not in it. And I was asked about Darmian earlier. So for me, the best Inter defenders are Dumfries, Bastoni. Then you're probably looking at DeMarco, but his minutes are a bit of a concern. Then Acerbi, and then Bissek. That is the way I'd rank them. And if you're also including Som in the equation, he's probably the best way to cover Inter Milan defensively, to be fair. But if you've got Szczesny already, I wouldn't be buying Sommer in. And if you've got both Sommer and Szczesny, I think Barca are more likely to keep a clean sheet. So I'd favour keeping Szczesny this week. So hopefully that is easy to follow. But the best Inter defenders are Bastoni. But I think Dumfries might be slightly ahead this week because of the attacking threat. And for those that aren't aware, the Arsenal PSG lineups are out, and we have covered them before. No real shocks. Trossard is down the middle, playing up front for Arsenal. Marino's in the midfield. And other than that, what you'd expect from the Gunners. And PSG have an unchanged side from Matchday 4 team. So nothing real, kind of different to report there. In terms of polls, I did put a captaincy one earlier. Dembele Saka is getting very tight now. It was one-sided at one stage, and it might even be closer. Yeah, look, it's literally neck and neck now. Dembele 45%, Saka 43%. In terms of the best midfielder to buy this week, and I would rank Marino lower now, Ferran Torres is top with 41%, Kvaratskhelia second. Marino's not too far behind though, and Dani Olmo is a mega differential it seems, according to the poll, but his ownership remains higher than Ferran Torres, who is currently at 1%. Maybe that will creep up soon. With Predict 6, I've gone for Barca 3, Inter Milan 1, and Arsenal 2, PSG 1, but I might change some of these predictions before the deadline. And also for the UCL Fantasy League, be sure to join if you haven't done so already. The code is cCaFxb. And I know I usually kind of go live beyond the deadline, but this time it might have to be just a immediate lock into the game. It's a huge game for Arsenal there, and I'm not going to miss a single second of it. So hopefully you do understand that. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe for the next deadline, where it's a different team starting things off, Barca Inter Milan would be obviously the first game on Tuesday. I can still go beyond the deadline and have the game on in the background casually, but we can talk about that later. And I'll answer new questions. I know a lot of them will be repeat and kind of typical ones. I try to, keep things fresh here for the audience. But I might make my transfers now. So Doué, Lautaro Martinez and Thuram will come in up front. As I just showed you, it looks like Thuram will start up front alongside Lautaro. Raya in is also quite nailed on for me. And now it's between Ferran Torres, Trossard, Olmo, and a few other midfielders, and that's where this poll is going to come in. So let's actually put this up on the channel. From these options. Would that work? I don't want to make things... no, let's not do that again. Okay. Before I confirm this poll, Napstar's good to see you. He asked, please talk me out of Vitinha and go Saka. Well, Vitinha is one of the best midfielders in the world. He can get ball recoveries and the odd player of the match award, but Saka's ceiling is much higher, and he is also a great captaincy option on the Tuesday. He will be fairly template, but Dembele is also kind of sharing the captaincy with him, and Saka has a great record in the Champions League, especially at the Emirates, and he basically averages a goal or assist per game in this competition. So I'd highly recommend Saka over Vitinha. And if I'm ranking midfielders, it'd be Rafinha first, probably Saka second at the moment, then Bele third, and then you're looking at the likes of Yamal and Ferran Torres in fourth and fifth, not to mention Trossard, who looks very, I'd say tempting this week, but I would go for Saka over Vitinha, mate. So which midfielder would you buy from these options? Let's put them on screen. So Olmo. Let's also put... should we put Kalanoglu? I'm not really feeling him at the moment, to be honest. Let's put Trossard. Martinelli and Ferran Torres. Let's do that. I can only put 4 options, by the way. So there you go. And I'll get back to your questions very soon. Thank you to those that have sent in super chats, and also to Paredes for gifting even more memberships as we close in on 100 members on YouTube. Thank you very much. Let's get this show on the road. All right, I'm just going to put the poll out. No flags or anything, unfortunately, but it's not a big deal. Yeah, those are the 4 midfielders I'm mainly looking at. I know there's also Declan Rice. You just can't cover them all. I think Rice is an underrated captaincy shout today. That's definitely going to be the case. And we still have 900 people watching, even though we are approaching the end of this competition. Still a lot of love and support for the videos. Let's get the likes up to 200 plus. We are close to that as well. And then try to push on to as many as possible. And subscribe if you haven't done so already, because we are closing in on 33k subscribers. We are actually 80 away from that milestone. So let's try to get as close as possible to that and reach that goal in the next week or two. Yeah, Napstars, apparently Taremi won't start. Arnautovic is more likely, but the Sky Sports Italia lineup has Thuram starting. So Thuram is the one I'm going for. Looks like no doubles for the rest of the FPL season now. Yeah, I'll cover that in my videos, and that's why I didn't record anything. I was waiting for announcements from the Premier League and also for information. So that will also be addressed in my transfer tips, best wildcard team, and my own team selection. That will be coming out in the next couple of days. And of course, another deadline stream, this time on Saturday. Yeah, Robert Wells, there is interest in Declan Rice, but there's also these options I put in the poll, and unfortunately I'm limited to 4 options in this poll, and Trossard's playing down the middle, Ferran Torres as well for Barcelona, Martinelli and Olmo are also attacking options, whilst Declan Rice is playing as a DM today. He's going to get ball recoveries, so he can get 4 or 5 points very easily, but in terms of attacking threat, you're kind of relying on set pieces in my opinion, and from open play, he's not going to play that same box-to-box role. So if Partey was there, I think Rice would be in this conversation and right up there, but I think that positional change doesn't really favour him in terms of the high ceiling. Transit Tube says, would you do Lewandowski to Thuram for a -4? No. I personally wouldn't, unless you're backing Thuram to score, but even if he does, it could be a 5 or 6 pointer, and you're only gaining 1 or 2 points in the process. So, in my opinion, unless you get an assist and a goal, or a brace, or something kind of mad, a Player of the Match award as well, I don't think it's really worth it. Strabon says, I have Limitless but 5 transfers. Is it okay to fix the team? The thing is though, mate, the Limitless is, I'll be honest, not very useful now. Everyone here, if they can get to, 14, 15 players, they basically have 8, 9, 10 million in the bank whilst getting their favourite players for Matchday 15. So it's going to be even worse for the final, where you can't make substitutions, you only get a starting 11, and the only kind of good thing about the Limitless now is going for 1 week punts, focusing on what's right in front of you, and then you can deal with future rounds as they come along. So, I don't know. In my opinion, I just use the Limitless now. And then for, Matchday 16 free transfers, that should be enough. I think with a wildcard, I'd definitely use it now and go differential. With the Limitless, there is a case to be made to use it in Matchday 16 instead, but it all is team dependent. But in my opinion, for Matchday 17, I think both the Limitless and the wildcard lose their value. FPL Mag says, Kvaratskhelia, Torres or Trossard. My current preference is Torres, and it has been all week. Trossard will be second. One of those two I think will come into my team. Thank you to Napstars for gifting 5 memberships. So Felix Bailey, Bose, Andre Finesca, Jacob Zinman, and Javier Garcia. Enjoy the memberships, early access to my videos, and also priority reply to comments. So thank you very much. And also to Ivan Schneider, who will be better, Szczesny or Sommer for Raya? I prefer Szczesny. I think Barca have a better chance of a clean sheet, and I have shown those odds earlier. So Arsenal are top with a 33% chance of keeping a clean sheet. Barca are second with 32%, and Inter Milan are bottom with only 15%. Now, Sommer is a great UCL Fantasy goalkeeper. He is the highest scoring player in this position for a reason, but I would rather have Szczesny for this match day, and I also think Barcelona will go through. Just to Barky, both of them should start. They don't play in the same position necessarily in this current setup. Ferran Torres is replacing Robert Lewandowski and almost playing as a second striker or attacking midfielder, if you will. So in terms of minutes, I think Torres might be a little bit more nailed on. Olmo does get subbed off quite early a lot of the time, around 50 to 70 minutes, depending on game state and fitness. So I do think Torres is a little bit more nailed on, so to speak. Yeah, Taremi probably won't start. And I did say in my team selection yesterday that based on the reports from Sunday, Arnautovic was going to start. But now, over the last day or so, it looks like Thuram will get the nod. And that's why I always tell people to not lock in transfers until the deadline stream, if possible. Thank you, Juan. Good to see you. Vicente says Ferran or Yamal. I'd be tempted to go differential and pick Ferran Torres there. Would you do a -4 to transfer out either Szczesny or Sommer for Raya? No. I would not take it for any goalkeeper. Even up front, unless you're going for Lautaro, and then I'd maybe consider it. I wouldn't take a hit for one of those positions. With the defenders, I'd be more open to it, and certainly in the midfield, where I think the biggest gains can be made. Jeff C says, I'm going Bastoni to Inigo Martinez and going all in with 6 Barca. That's fine, and I've encouraged this throughout this stream in terms of backing a certain team. If you are feeling a Barca clean sheet, then go all in on that defense if possible, and that is how you can differentiate yourself from those with 3 to 5 Barca players. I know in my case, I'm not really feeling the need to make a defender transfer, and I think 5 is enough, but if I had a wild card or limitless now, I'd be tempted to go a little bit different and have that sort of structure that you're talking about. Differential defender from Arsenal, probably Lewis Skelly. Both him and Timber can get assists from open play. Kivior can get ball recoveries, but from that perspective, I just go Saliba. So my favourite is Lewis Skelly. Yeah, Davo, as I just mentioned, is Ferran Torres, mate. Adam says, buy Marino or Trossard. Trossard. Marino's playing in the midfield. They can interchange, but Trossard should play down the middle throughout most of the game, and I think he is the more appealing option now as a result. Thank you, Bose, but the one to really thank is Napstars, because he's the one who gifted them, and then YouTube randomly allocate the memberships. Felix Bailey says Courtois for Raya or Lewandowski for Thuram, or both for a -4. That is a good question. Oddly enough, I'd favour Courtois to Raya, but I wouldn't take a hit. So I'd keep Lewandowski, buy Raya, and you can sell Lewandowski in matchday 16 if he's still unavailable, and chances are he won't be for the second leg. Yeah, in terms of attacking potential, Mohamed, it's going to be Timber, but ball recoveries is a big thing in UCL Fantasy, and Saliba is the best Arsenal defender for that metric. Yeah, thank you to Stepaki, but unfortunately that is sometimes unavoidable, it seems. But thank you to the mods and everyone else for keeping things rolling. Yeah, Pedri will play. He's literally one of the best midfielders in the world. He makes Barcelona tick. Take Pedri out of that Barcelona team, and they could lose to Inter Milan very easily, and they might not be that far in the Champions League semi-finals or competing on all fronts. Stefano says, got Kvaratskhelia for Ferran to fix 6 Tuesday, 7 Wednesday. I'd still rather have Ferran Torres. I get it. You know, you're thinking about your structure. That's a good thing. I always encourage you to be conscious about it. But in my case, if I buy Ferran Torres, I'll have 7 Tuesday, 8 Wednesday. I'm happy with that. Don't look too much into it. If you got 6, 7 on the Tuesday, that is fine. David says, I logged it in a few minutes ago before coming to your stream. I totally forgot. Look, I get it. Everyone's different. And also, you know, things change so quickly in UCL Fantasy and the landscape, especially with Inter Milan. You know, 1 minute is Thuram starting, the next is going to be Taremi, then they go to Arnautovic, and now, oh, Thuram is starting. So it can be tough to follow, but that's what I try to do in my videos and the live stream, to relay all the information needed so you're well prepared for the Champions League. Jerzik says, Yamal, Rafinha, Ferran, Dembele, Vitinha, Saka, who would you remove? Vitinha. Luis Arias says, hi Dylan, I have 1 transfer left. Should I keep De Vrij or sell Lewandowski for Doué? Well, De Vrij won't start, according to reports. I'd rather sell De Vrij, I think, but I'm not sure who you have in your defensive line already. But yeah, I think I'd go for a defender there. Yeah, Ayub, I'm not sure what your team is like. If you're happy with your squad now, then I'd use the Limitless in matchday 16. Otherwise, if you think, oh, I want to take a -4 here or go different, use the limitless now. But ultimately, the Matchday 17 limitless or wildcard doesn't look that good. Yeah, Bran, I did cover that earlier. So I've currently gone for 2-1 Arsenal and 3-1 to Barcelona. Is Thuram playing? Apparently, yes. I cannot guarantee it, but Sky Sports Italia have him in the starting lineup. Vitinha or Torres? Ferran Torres. Ruben says, do I go for Torres instead of Kalanoglu and stay with Lewandowski injured, or go for Thuram for Lewandowski? It is a good question because that's more of a quantity versus quality question. I think it's probably best to go for the extra body just in case and go for Thuram, but I do like Ferran Torres a lot this week, but I think in your situation, I would go for Thuram. Not for me there, Bilson. No, I wouldn't take it for a goalkeeper. Miguel C says, Thuram for my last free transfer or keep Lewandowski. Yeah, I mean, if you are in a position where you've got one more transfer available, you can't roll it in this stage, so you might as well use it, and Lewandowski will not be available in either leg, it looks like, so also next week as well. I just go for Thuram. Jonathan says, hi mate, in your team Yamal or Trossard? It's still probably Yamal, but it's very close. I have said to people before that I'd favour Ferran Torres over Yamal, but it's very close between those three in particular. I think Rafinha, Saka and Dembele stand out as the best midfielders. And I know Yamal is part of the template, and ultimately you'd probably favour him over the rest that you've mentioned, but yeah, I do like Trossard a lot this week, I have to admit. But Yamal has been in brilliant form all season, and he's more consistent than Trossard. Alejandro E says, should I use the wildcard now? Depends on your team situation, but in most scenarios, I'd use it now. So yeah, the top 6-7 midfielders, yeah, 4 are obvious. So Saka, Dembele, Yamal, Rafinha, forget them. I would say Ferran Torres, Trossard, and Olmo. Best captain for today? For me, is Saka. Dembele or Trossard is the real question. I prefer Dembele overall. Thank you, Alejandro. Szczesny or Sommer? I prefer Szczesny this week. Once again, Mohamed, Dembele. Can't even speak. SD says Rice or Torres. Torres. Declan Rice is playing in holding midfield. He will get ball recoveries and probably secure 4 or 5 points, but I think Ferran Torres has the highest ceiling. Trossard is good, but I do prefer Ferran Torres at the moment. I might end up going for the Arsenal player in Trossard, you know, back my team and all that, but those two are at the top of my list to replace Rodgers, and Torres has been my preference all week. That is my current answer. Doué or Thuram? Probably Doué. Paredes, there's only 3 strikers, mate. Basically the 3 you see on screen. Lautaro Martinez and Doué, they will both start. And it looks like Thuram will also be in that lineup tomorrow, but it's not absolutely set in stone, because if Inzaghi feels like Thuram isn't fully fit, or there are any concerns about his fitness and rushing him back, then they'll play Arnautovic most likely, but it looks like he will start tomorrow. So yes, Jesse, that is probably going to be the case. I cannot guarantee it. I can't really repeat myself more than that. I'll show my predictions soon, but I did say the scorelines already, even without the graphics on screen. 3 Barca attackers, 2 Barca strikers, and 2 Arsenal attackers will be good combination. Yeah, but it's also a question of being different. I know I usually like balancing things out a little bit, and I do have a balance in my 50-man squad, but I also encourage you to back your own predictions. If you think a certain team will score goals or win a game, go all in on that team and the attack potentially. The same goes for the clean sheet and the defenders or goalkeeper, because you're not going to make up points otherwise if you just go for what everybody else does. Choose one, Martinelli, Rice, or Odegaard. Martinelli. And by the way, Rice and Odegaard are still good options. I think all of them can haul at the same time, but well, Paredes, with Thuram, I cannot really guarantee it, but it looks like he will start. Alka, I'm not sure why you're going to keep asking it. I will show it soon. Calm down a little bit, please. Sad says, I choose Kvaratskhelia over Ferran. It is your prediction. It's your pick. I don't really mind it. My preference is Ferran Torres, but yeah, Kvaratskhelia is not bad. Well, whoop, Luis Enrique is a good coach, but Arteta beat him earlier this season, and hopefully he does it again. Hey, Dylan, Saka's only 9% owned. Is he still that low owned? Yeah, he will go up a little bit by the end of the deadline. I don't think the ownership figures have updated, but that's lower than I expected. That's what I mean. It might be a case where you can still get rank rises, but temper your expectations, because we all are going for the same teams. Only 4 clubs available at this stage. Yeah, I agree, Goldhead. If you want to go differential with captain this match day, then tonight is the night, as we will all be captain Rafinha tomorrow. I agree, and that's something I always recommend to people. Tuesday, Be different if you want, especially with the captaincy, and if not, go for the template option on Wednesday, but you've got the best of both worlds there. Are you concerned Torres will be subbed early due to fatigue? Yeah, but what about Olmo? You can say the same about Yamal or Rafinha. I know they're less likely, but it's still possible. And the thing is, like, Trossard isn't a 90-minute man either. So they could take off Trossard, put Marino up front, and then bring on a midfielder, or put Zinchenko on at the left-back spot, and then Skelly in the midfield, and Trossard will still go to the bench there. No, whoop. No. Sneaky Alice says, got 3 PSG and 2 Barca defenders, sell Pacho for Inigo Martinez, or Skelly, or keep. I would probably sell Pacho personally, but he can get ball recovery, so even if PSG lose or concede multiple goals, he can still give you 4 or 5 points. That's the good thing about Pacho, but I'd probably favour Skelly. Well, Pudge, I'm not going to go to Kvaratskhelia, to be honest with you. I mean, he is considered. He's a good option, but I do think the ones in the poll are better. Would you do -4 for Lewis Skelly? No. Not a -4. If I felt Arsenal keep a clean sheet, then yeah, because he can get 8-9 points, but I think PSG and Arsenal will both score. Thank you, Alfonso. Ferran or Odegaard? I prefer Ferran Torres. Aranya says, hi Dylan, who has the highest scoring potential between Barca and Arsenal this week? Barca. I know Inter's defence is better than PSG's on paper, but yeah, I do think with Inter Milan's current form, I think Barca have the highest ceiling, and they've also got a better attack than Arsenal. Do you think Odegaard over Ferran is a fair choice? It is a fair choice, but I don't think it's the better one, personally. The Marco news, apparently he starts, but I can't guarantee anything to you, mate. Captain Saka or Rice? Saka. Rice is playing as a DM. If you want to captain a holding midfielder, that's fine, and he's a differential, but Saka has 9% ownership anyway, and Rice will get ball recoveries, but in terms of open play threat, it's not going to be the same as what he did against Real Madrid over both legs, because Partey is suspended. Football prediction site completely agrees with you, 2-1 and 3-1. Yeah, they are the template picks, and that's why I am feeling to go a bit different. I was thinking 3-1 Arsenal to, you know, shake things up a little bit, or perhaps 2-0. Yeah, I've considered a lot of different score lines, 2-2 as well. Difficult games to predict. That's what it really comes down to, but the booster is on Barcelona. All right, so what I'm going to do, since I'm being asked a lot of the same questions and stuff like that, so let's go through these one more time, but I just can't keep on doing it. So UCL Fantasy, this is the league code, cCaFxb. There's an auto-join link to make it even easier to join. Predict 6, I've currently gone for 2-1 Arsenal, and I also showed my individual predictions earlier in terms of who will score first and all of that. I've also gone for Barca 3 into 1, but I might make a change in both of these predictions, actually. So it's something I haven't given too much thought to be honest, but maybe I should, because there's a few mini leagues there to win. With the polls, Ferran Torres is winning this one on screen that I put on my channel. Kvaratskhelia is 2nd, Marino 3rd, and Olmo is 4th. For the captaincy, it's very, very close. Let's see if Saka's overtaken. Wow. Dembele and Saka are both at 44%. So this poll has definitely changed tonight. Marino is 3rd with 6%, and the other option has just 5%. This is the rumoured lineup for tomorrow for Inter Milan, according to Sky Sports Italia. I've shown it in so many deadline streams this season, and they have always gotten it spot on, but take it with a pinch of salt. There can be a late change, and the main modification that could happen is Thuram. If Inzaghi feels like he's not available or he's not ready to start the game, they'll go for Arnautovic or Taremi instead, and I think the most likely would be Arnautovic. But it looks like Thuram will start tomorrow, and that's why I'm buying him up front. And the same goes for Lautaro. He's also coming in, and Doué to replace my entire forward line. And Arsenal PSG lineups were also talked about several times. So for Arsenal, Raya, Timber, Saliba, Kivior, Lewis Skelly, Odegaard, Rice, Marino, Saka, Trossard, Martinelli, and PSG have an unchanged side. So Donnarumma, Nuno Mendes, Pacho, Marquinhos, Hakimi, Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, João Neves, Kvaratskhelia, Doué, and Dembele. So let's now go back to my UCL Fantasy team and lock in my transfers. So the front three is coming in. I know you could say just keep Lewandowski and go differential in the defence. I get it, but I'm getting the extra body and having a full 50-man squad. That's what I'm doing there. And what it really comes down to for me is this midfielder to replace Rodgers. And I've got 16.3 million in the bank. Do I go for Trossard, Vitinha, Kvaratskhelia, Rice, Odegaard, Ferran Torres, Olmo, Pedri? There are so many choices. Kalinoglu's another one. My current favourites are Torres, Trossard, and Olmo. And one of those will likely come in as my final transfer. Marino or Trossard? I prefer Trossard because Marino is playing in the midfield. Ruben says, thank you, Dylan. Can you tell the best defenders for this match day too? Yeah, so for me, an Arsenal defender like Saliba is my favourite, but if you want to go differential, I think any of them are fine. Skelly and Timber for the attacking threat. But I would go for Saliba, Mendes, Hakimi, Koundé, and I would also go... You know what? If I'm building a limitless team this week, I might go a bit different and go for a second Barca defender in Inigo Martinez. And if you've got Szczesny in goal, that could even form a triple up. It also depends on your goalkeepers and how you structure things there. But I think I'd drop Inter Milan defenders this week, if possible. Now, if I had a fifth move available, you know, and I'm not using all of my forward line and the midfield and goalkeeper, I'd be tempted to say, you know what, Bastoni out for Skelly or something like that. But yeah, that's my top 5 defenders. Also check out my best team video and you can see my thoughts on the best team there, not just for matchday 15, but also in the long term. Yeah, so I just covered the limitless defense and the rest is basically the same as what I discussed before. UCL Fantasy is lagging, says Miguel C. That is surprising. It usually is quite decent at withholding traffic. What I would suggest to people is to lock in transfers now within the next 5 minutes and don't leave it to the last few seconds. And also have your app ready on your phone or tablet. And then you can also have the website. So you've got different options and a backup just in case, because you don't want to be in a situation where the site crashes when you're confirming moves or changing the bench. Captain Dembele or Saka? I've said it all week. Saka is my preference. I'll likely stick with it. And once again, mate, Saka is my favourite captain over Rice. Chelsea Blues 99 says, hi Dylan, we'll hold wildcard for next week. Went for Saka, Trossard, Lewis Skelly, Raya and Doué for free transfers. That's solid. And yeah, if you like your team this week and you've got 14, 15 players, that's fine. But ultimately, the wildcard and the limitless are less powerful at this stage of the competition, in my opinion, especially the limitless. Golded says, if I'm buying Saliba and Saka and already have Hakimi, Nuno, Mendes, do I sell Donnarumma or Raya for Szczesny? I'd rather sell Donnarumma for Szczesny. Johan says, Captain Dembele or Saka? Just covered that. Dylan, if I don't have enough transfers for a bench at all, would you recommend keeping Lewandowski for final and using transfers for defenders, second goalkeeper, or just do Lewandowski to Thuram anyway? Yeah, I get your question. It's a good one. I think there are better horse to be had in the defensive midfield than Thuram, so I'd focus on that instead. But Barca might not make the final. I think they will, but Inter Milan still have a chance. Garner says, I have one transfer and one keeper missing, and also Lewandowski. I'd go for Raya, as I've mentioned before. Captain Saka or Ferran? Captain the Tuesday player, which is Saka. Then, after the Tuesday game is done, and before tomorrow's match, you can change your captain and make subs. If you are unsure about how UCL Fantasy works, check out my How to Play guide and the chip strategy video. My favourite Arsenal defender is Saliba, but because we are in a template world now in UCL Fantasy and you want to go a bit different, I take a punt on Lewis Skelly. Well, Tom, go for someone else. Don't just go for Torres because he is top in this poll or because I'm maybe going for him. Go a little bit different if you can. Otherwise, you're not really going to gain rank that way. Ruben says, thank you, Dylan. So yeah, that's been covered. And thank you to Dave for moderating the chat. You cannot roll transfers, Paredes. You cannot. Do you think no Inter defender is risky? There's a slight element of risk to it, yeah, but they are bottom of the clean sheet odds, and I personally don't think they will withstand that Barcelona attack, at least in matchday 15. Just covered that MH. Kalsar. Ferran Torres will start, yes, because Lewandowski is out. So, Uma, I did show the Inter Milan predicted lineup several times. They have DeMarco and Dumfries starting in those wing-back spots. The semi-final is on Prime. Yes, I'll be putting up very soon, actually. I don't want to miss a single minute. Best goalkeepers on Limitless? Very simple. Raya and Szczesny for me. Pedri's decent, but I prefer Olmo, Ferran Torres, Yamal and Rafinha from that Barca midfield. Pedri's very good for Man of the Match awards, definitely, but I prefer those four instead. Doge, I don't know how else I need to say it, but your question was highlighted, so there you go. MHA Highs says, thank you for always answering the questions. What do you think, Pedri or Ferran? Well, Torres will play down the middle, and I'd rather go for him as a punt than Pedri, who is a quality player, and he scored a great goal in the Copa del Rey final, but usually he's not a goals or assist player. Golded says, Declan Rice in a pre-match team talk in the warm-up just said, if we don't have the ball, we die. My guy's ready for war, and I love it. Energy, passion, determination. he is a leader, and I know people will say he should take the captaincy armband from Odegaard, but everyone is a different, style of leader. Messi, for example, isn't like a motivational speaker, most of the time. So yeah, I think everyone has their own leadership style, but Declan Rice is definitely a natural leader in football. Szczesny or Ter Stegen? Szczesny, mate. Ter Stegen's out for basically the entire season. He's not going to be in the squad. Captain Dembele, not for me, but, go for your own picks and stuff like that. All the best there. Rice Baby, says Gary. He is playing defensive midfield, though. He's not playing in that box-to-box role that he did against Real Madrid because Partey is suspended, so keep an eye out for that situation. Barella's a quality midfielder, but in UCL fantasy terms, I prefer Kalinoglu, who's on penalties, and you've also got all the other midfielders in the poll, and I've mentioned earlier. Yeah, captains for today, Saka, Dembele, and Trossard. Covered before as well. Saka for me. Thank you, Elliot. Have Sommer and Donnarumma in goal. Thoughts? Well, my favourite goalkeepers this week are Raya and Szczesny, but maybe that goes well for you. You are going a little bit different there. I'm not skipping anyone, but there's a lot of questions and comments, some repeats, so it's difficult to keep track of everything. I'm doing my best. Formation 4-5-1 in UCL Fantasy Final? Probably, and we have done that sort of thing before with Chelsea Man City a few years ago. Dembele captain? Yeah, I think that's a good option. He's second in my list, but hopefully he blanks today. Easy says Lewandowski will be the only striker left in UCL Fantasy if he's fit for the Arsenal-Barcelona final, if they reached it. Well, maybe they don't. Who knows? It could be Inter PSG. But yeah, I'd love an Arsenal-Barcelona final and for the Gunners to lift the trophy. Maybe Goldhead, but I'll probably be focusing on the game too much to even do that. Hecka says Vitinha, Rice, Kvaratskhelia, Ferran Torres. Yeah, my favourite is Ferran Torres. So apparently the website is crashing. I would encourage you to lock things in as soon as possible. Like this stream if you haven't done so already. I've answered hundreds of questions, as I basically always do in these UCL Fantasy and FPL streams. And let's keep tabs on the subscribers. We are 70 away from 33,000. Let's make a late push towards that milestone and try to achieve that by the next week or two. That would be greatly appreciated. So hopefully by the next UCL Fantasy Deadline stream, we will have 33,000 subscribers. And if you can push us towards 300 likes, that would be greatly appreciated. A big up to Napstars and Paredes for gifting memberships, also for the super chats, and everyone else who has basically been involved in the discussion. Let me actually have a quick look and make sure that no one has been unanswered with the super chats. Yeah, I think that's all been covered, so that's all good. And I am now going to lock in my team, I think. I'd highly encourage everybody, especially at this stage of the competition, be different, back your gut. If you have a prediction for the game, it might also conflict with mine, then go for your own predictions, your own players and captaincy options, because otherwise you're not going to gain anything from copying other people in the chat, in the poll. They are only used as guides and references, but to become a better UCL fantasy player, you have to go for your own picks and improve your decision making and have some luck in the process. Ahmed says Lewandowski to Thuram. Covered before as well. I'd go for Sommer to Raya. Magnus says -4 for Raya. Probably not worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it for me. Thank you, Ignacio. I would go for Ferran Torres. Doge says any other striker? No. You could go for Taremi or Arnautovic and hope that they start over Thuram, which is unlikely, or that they come off the bench and score. But that's pretty much it. You've got no other options there. Adir says worth dropping Lewandowski to Thuram for a hit. I don't think so. Unless you're backing Thuram to score. And even then, you only gain 1 or 2 points unless he gets an assist, a brace, or a Player of the Match award. So I don't think it's worth it, personally. Not for me, Mac. Nope. Let's see if there are any other members I haven't answered. So yeah, that's also been talked about as well. I wouldn't take a hit for Doué, personally, but you might feel like PSG win or they score goals and Doué's involved. So back your gut, but for me personally, I wouldn't do it. Olmo over Ferran Torres for me. Good luck, everyone. They both have low ownership, so I do like that. They are both massive differentials. Ferran is the flavour of the week, so a lot of maybe YouTubers like myself are, talking about him, but there are different ways to go about it. Well, Jeff, Declan Rice will get ball recoveries and kind of guarantee you 4 to 5 points, but he's playing as a defensive midfielder. Ferran Torres is playing as a striker, so I think that speaks for itself. I prefer Ferran Torres. Sí, Sebastián. Si puedes, yo creo que vale la pena comprar a Ferran Torres. Well, yeah, Doué captains the differential. That is definitely true. That is definitely one way of separating yourself from the crowd. And I do like Doué. He was mentioned actually yesterday, but hopefully he does blank. Sorry, mate, but that is my hope and dream. Mexis says Kvaratskhelia over Ferran Torres, that I can get Szczesny over Sommer. I prefer Ferran Torres, but once again, I encourage you to be different. If you feel like Kvaratskhelia is better, go for him. Emad says -4. Not sure if it's worth a hit. I'd probably keep what you have. Dembele's the best one to captain from PSG's front line. A defender to captain today for a differential, maybe Lewis Skelly. I mean, look, from PSG, Hakimi and Nuno Mendes are brilliant, so they speak for themselves. But if you're backing Arsenal, then I'd say Lewis Skelly or Saliba. Should I take a hit to transfer Lewandowski out? Not for me, no. Yeah, I like that, Ezra. Trossard captain is right up there for me, and he might be bought in as my final transfer. Let's see. Just going to have a quick look and see if there are any leaks or rumours for tomorrow. Don't think there are, and either way, I did cover Inter Milan's predicted lineup earlier. So it looks like Thuram will start. Yeah. Interesting times ahead. I mean, look, defensive midfielders can be good as well. Declan Rice is one of them. Ball recoveries we saw a few years ago, Jorginho and Kante for Chelsea. Sometimes these more defensive options can do the business. So yeah, I am considering Rice, but I think Ferran Torres is the one I'm kind of opting for here. If I were to go for that, it means 3 Inter players, 5 Barca, 4 PSG, and 3 Arsenal. Unless I go for that Trossard move, or maybe Declan Rice, who averages 6 points per game in UCL Fantasy. A lot of different options in that midfield. It's such a shame we can't drop one of the forwards and go for 7 midfielders. That would be the dream scenario, but just not possible. Yeah, my favourite captain from those 3 is Saka. Ferran or Pedri? Ferran. I probably prefer Calhanoglu there, mate, because Calhanoglu's on penalties. Will Araujo start for Barcelona? It will likely be Inigo Martinez and Cubarsí. Araujo only played in Matchday 14 because Inigo Martinez was rested and also was a suspension risk, so Hansi Flick saved him there. Yeah, Thuram will likely start tomorrow, covered before. Ashish says, so one of DeMarco Bastoni. I still rank Bastoni slightly higher. I think DeMarco could be subbed off earlier, but he also has more attacking threats, so that can go either way. I do prefer Bastoni a little bit. That's just my current preference. So I'm going to make these moves now, just to make sure they go through. So I'm buying Thuram, Martinez, Doué, and Raya. And Rodgers, I'm still undecided, but I just want to lock this in early. So there we go. Let's also make sure that Raya is in the starting 11. Okay, so that is done. And what I'm going to do here is refresh this and make sure that I am locked in. So that was my team before. That is done. So I made 4 transfers and I just need 1 more. This is what it comes down to, in my opinion. That choice of the 5th midfielder can be a game changer. It can decide ranks, mini-league rankings and all that. And it needs to be spot on. So the final player to replace Rodgers. And we've got less than 3 minutes left until the deadline. So lock your teams now. Do not leave it for the last minute just in case. The website is working fine for me, but for some people it might end up crashing. So I think I'm going to go for Ferran Torres, but it is very, very close. So yeah, let's keep on pushing with the likes and subscriptions. We are getting very close to some big goals there, like 33k subscribers. Thank you, Jeff, and hopefully Arsenal can do the business tonight. Yes, Sani, Pavard is confirmed out. Captain Saka, Dembele, Saka for me. He's also got lower ownership. He's a differential. From those 2, I prefer Kvaratskhelia slightly, but I'll be honest, I prefer Saka, Dembele, and Trossard instead. Thuram or Doué? Probably Doué. Yep, Paladin, come on, you Gunners. Yep, Pavard is definitely out. I literally just said that. Who's second for you behind Ferran Torres? I think Trossard. Dennis Olmo in third, but it's literally fine margins between all of them. And I think Rice and Martinelli aren't too far behind either. Probably Saka, dear. Mentioned before in my team selection, best team, and also in this video. Transfers locked. Torres, Saka, Saliba, Doué, Szczesny, and Hakimi captain. 96 points as a defender with 5 assists and 2 goals. Yeah, makes sense. I think even Nuno Mendes, he's only 5 points behind him. They're definitely worth it. I was actually considering captaining a PSG player to at least jinx or, you know, soften the pain if it comes to it. But hopefully Arsenal just batter them. Gonna go watch the game. Thank you for the help as always. Yeah, same here. I will be doing that myself. Possibly, yeah, Shish. I don't mind that. I think Timber is better than Bastoni this week. Bastoni or Inigo Martinez? Inigo Martinez. I think Trossard is better than Dembele. You might be right, Adam, and I hope you are, to be honest with you. But I think I'm going for Ferran Torres. Yeah, I think Barca just have great form. I think it's worth tripling up on that attack. It's a Barcelona striker. I know Trossard is also doing the same thing here. And he has scored crucial goals for Arsenal, but I think I'm going for Ferran Torres, who has low ownership. So there you go. It would mean 7 Tuesday, 8 Wednesday players. Yeah, it's done. I've locked myself in. And yeah, let's now go to this screen. So we are seconds away from kickoff, and the deadline is fast approaching. So I've got Raya in goal. I've got Koundé, Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, Saliba, and Bastoni in my defensive line. I've got Rafinha, Yamal, Dembele, Saka captain, and Doué. And the bench has Szczesny, Lautaro Martinez, Thuram, and Ferran Torres. Not that it matters, but I might just do this and then take off Bastoni. But it literally doesn't really matter. They're both playing tomorrow. It's closed anyway. It doesn't matter. So let's just cancel that. And yeah, we are locked in and ready. So the same goes for my prediction. I haven't changed it. So I've gone for 2-1 Arsenal. Hopefully that is... Well, actually, I hope it's better than that. Hopefully Arsenal win by 2 or 3 goals, or maybe more than that. That'd be brilliant. But there we go. We have kicked off. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like the video, even if you're on your way out. It'd be greatly appreciated. And let's now go watch the game. It should be a brilliant affair between Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain. And also check my social media links in the description. My X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, the Discord server, FPL League, UCL Fantasy. What else? I mean, I'm just trying to get the game up. I'm not going to lie to you. So, yeah. I'll just quickly, what's it called? Do our farewells and all of that stuff. But Patreon, the championships, you know, everything is there in the description. Thank you to those that have shown support across all those platforms. Yeah, the Mantis, go Gunners. Hopefully they can get the job done. MMK, good luck to you as well. Hugo Cipriano says, I'm so dumb. I asked the question like 3 times and I wasn't watching live. Yeah, look, I get that. I mean, it has caught a lot of people out before. If you press this, the red dot, then yeah, you'll then go to the live section. But don't worry about it. Hopefully you did get the answer to your question in time. Skelly or Timber? I prefer Skelly a little bit more, but Timber will get more ball recoveries. Yeah, not from Ibrahim because Marino's playing as a midfielder, but he can interchange with Trossard. Well, good luck, Doge. Kubarsi was a big disappointment for me earlier this season, but I do think Kubarsi's better than Bastoni this week. Yeah, fair enough, easy. I think we've all got a Dembele or Saka captain with a few differentials in there. But yeah, hopefully Dembele blanks. Twisted says, balls, I run out of time for my last transfer. Yeah, that can happen. Never happened to me before, but if I keep on doing this, one day it could come back to bite me. But yeah, before the stream starts lagging a little bit, because I've got a lot of different links to the game up with Amazon Prime loaded, I'm going to cut this very soon. But let's do our farewells. Thank you to those that have tuned in to yet another very popular, very demanding, question-filled deadline stream. Rudiger and, was it Lautaro? Oh, Lewandowski on the bench still. Brought in Torres for Kvaratskhelia. Run out of time to get a Barca defender. Yeah, that is a shame. I do feel for you there, but yeah, I was trying to give like a reminders to people every 5 minutes or so to make sure. Thank you, Dave. As he says, hit the like button even if you're on the way out. Rudiger gets a 6-match ban. Vasquez get 2-match ban. Bellingham red card be pulled back. Yeah, I mean, they definitely deserve some punishments there, that's for sure. The FF Frostbite, or the F Frostbite says, gone for Thuram, Lautaro, Doué, Olmo, and Kivior. Yeah, unfortunately, we have no other options in that forward line, but it's good to see that we had that confirmation of the Inter Milan predicted lineup, or at least a solid, reliable source in Sky Sports Italia. So Thuram will likely play up front. Good luck as well, the F Frostbite. The Mantis says, quite strange, Martinelli went from second best Arsenal mid couple seasons ago to fourth or third at best. To be fair though, in recent weeks he has been very good, and in UCL Fantasy, of course, he did quite well in the second leg against Real Madrid, and I think he can make a difference today if he gets those spaces when Hakimi bombs forward. Twisted Parky says, I haven't done that well anyway. Well, yeah, but hopefully you can still push on and you know, get the rank you want and finish the season strongly. I'm not where I want to be, but it is what it is. Thank you, Doge, and hope to see you in future FPL and UCL Fantasy Deadline streams. Yeah, Vanosen, that was a harsh red card as well. It might be overturned. We'll wait and see how that goes. But yeah, I went for Jimenez, and both of them ended up flopping. Yeah, there's a few regrets, but I did very well in the free hit. I gained like 52, 54 points. I'll cover that in my team selection, but I got a green arrow. I'm getting closer to a decent rank, so to speak, and I'll discuss that very soon. Yeah, Vista to play. I mean, I'm not sure what to think about that, but he is fixture-proof, and I'm backing a 1-1 draw between Forest and Brentford. And both Vissa and Mbumo are definitely worth purchasing from Game Week 35 onwards. And good luck, everyone, in UCL Fantasy and FPL. I'll see you very soon for more content for both fantasy formats. Of course, we're back next week with more UCL Fantasy videos on live streams. And for FPL, keep your eyes peeled for the transfer tips, the best wildcard team, and my own team selection, and yet another deadline stream on Saturday. I hope to see you there, and hopefully enjoy the football, and all the best of luck in both fantasy formats.